when he's coming back. But in the meantime, we can see how our country is really falling apart. It is falling apart because we are coming to the realization, not the few at the top, but as a country, as a regular conversation, we're getting to the understanding of why we are where we are, right? Why we are where we are. And we are where we are because of the fraudulence in our country, number one, the dishonesty in the country that supports a dictatorship. That really is the bottom line. That is the bottom line. And so we have been having these discussions of, what happens? How do we move forward? How do we take our country over? And we're realizing that we need to educate ourselves. We need to understand, when we're talking about the ports, when we're talking about the oil, when we're talking about Glencoe, it is not a foreign, but it is something that we should know. And so today is one of those days that we're continuing conversation. And I know today this country is not somebody else who's in charge of it, but down to the person who is in the streets needs to have an idea of what is going on. So I'm just so excited. I feel so grateful because we have continued, you have continually showed up. And I would just say, before we move any further, just a little bit of today. Second, it's fundraising. So we're going to talk about how we are raising money, where we are so far, and how you can take action. All right. Now, another thing that's going to come up in the background, and we know this is happening, I just want to make sure that it comes up, and you don't think we're not going to talk about it. We know that the Pope is set to come to Cameroon. And with the Pope being set to come to Cameroon, we have rejected that. And the majority of Cameroonian people are not comfortable with his visit. But because he's already coming, we can control the narrative. And we're also going to talk about that. So today is quite exciting. Remember that we're going to you can pin all your questions on the chat. We're going to have questions and answers for you. Another thing that you can do right now as we get started is please send the link to as many people as you want, because once you get this message live as we're having it, it just makes more sense. So I'm just so excited today for what we have, and I hardly can wait for us to get started. So Akere, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Sorry, there we go. There we go. I've been trying to start my yes, finally we're here now. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ellie, for that, for starting us out with that. I will like to begin by just reminding our audience, especially those of you who may be joining us for the first time, about who we really are at Project C. I'll just run through. I'll just take a moment here to share our vision. Our vision here at Project C. We envision a peaceful, just, and inclusive Cameroon where every citizen has a voice, democracy flourishes, and the diaspora works hand in hand with communities at home to realize the nation's full potential. That is the vision. And we achieve this through the mission which is exactly what we are doing today. Project C essentially unites Cameroonians in the diaspora and allies to foster a peaceful, democratic transition in Cameroon. And we do this through advocacy, resource mobilization. We empower communities to champion lasting change, defend human rights, and build a brighter future for everyone. If you're joining us for the first time, we ask that you get involved, get engaged, take ownership of the process. Yes, you're signing up for these weekly Zoom meetings, but don't end here. Get involved, join a committee, and support the organization. That is what Project C, that's what we do. And we encourage you to invite as many more people to be part of this process. Before I turn it over here to Eric to just give us a place in time this week for Project C and our country, looking at some of the events that have taken place whilst we wait for our for Mimi Mefo and Junior Abena to give us the press review of the week and the events of the week that they're finalizing. Let me just start by saying, in reference to the mission and vision that I just introduced to you, to every Cameroonian that is listening to us, our story as a country has always been one of placing labels. We have grown from a country rich in diversity to one where we see ourselves labeled as either a political party, an organization, an ex-student association, an ethnic group. But the true accomplishment of what we aspire for is going to be more than one group. It's going to be more than one political party. It's going to be more than one event. It's going to be a concerted effort of every Cameroonian, no matter what shade you carry, working together, looking beyond obvious challenges that we face, looking beyond the barriers that we have placed on ourselves or our parents have placed on us, to embrace each other for what we truly represent and what we truly aspire for. A Cameroon that can succeed without us trampling on others. A Cameroon where we could lift each other up and succeed together. Believing in a country where there is so much to be offered to everyone, that every child that is born in that country can have access to good quality water, education, that everyone can find justice in our courtrooms. But for that to happen, we all need to start thinking differently. That includes me, that includes you. And unless we embrace that, we will not be able to succeed. And today we're covering a topic that really turns around this notion that the wealth of the country is usurped by a few to the detriment of others. But if we could just turn that around and change the mindset and look at what countries like Norway have done with the sovereign fund, that as far back as in the 1950s and 60s, they looked at their oil as the wealth of the country, established a sovereign fund that has made that country economically stable. That if you look at Norway and many of the Scandinavian countries, the happiness index is extremely high, not because they have so much wealth below the ground, not because they have people that are more talented than the people in Cameroon, but because they put the people first before individual gains. And that's the purpose of a segment or conversations or this series of conversations that we're going to be having. It comes down to each one of us deciding to look beyond obvious barriers that we have placed on ourselves and embrace each other as Cameroonians and go on this journey of prosperity for everyone. This is a heartfelt message that I wanted to share with everyone as an introduction into how we should think about these conversations. It's not about pointing fingers or accusing, and it's looking at the facts and the realities and figuring out how we move forward as a country and how the people of Cameroon can take ownership of the process. So I'm going to stop here. And whilst we're waiting for Ellie, did you want to come in?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think that Abena is getting ready, and we're going to have him. And I'm going to leave you a message that, with Mimi, and that might be later on today, but not now.
Okay.
I also just wanted to add, in terms of people connecting, just to be clear, if you're wondering if this is your first time, you can go to projectcameroon.com. And when you go to projectcameroon.com, that's where you can donate. Now, what is so simple and smooth is you can donate from any part of the world, so long as you have a card with any of the, Visa, credit card logos, MasterCard, you can donate from there. And that is the easiest way for you to donate. And I know that some of you start by donating way before it starts. So now will be a good time for you to do that as we get started. Another thing that you might want to do to stay, and Are just posted that on, just on the chat, so you can pick it up from there. Another thing that you might want to do to stay connected is we now have a channel on your WhatsApp. And so all the announcements are on there, current events, what we're going to be talking about, what is going on, is always on there. So when in doubt of finding out what is going on in Cameroon, what Project C is doing about it, you might want to use the channel. And just so I share with you, because we're all growing this together, we understand that part of the way in the new weapons of war today is not necessarily guns. Part of the most powerful weapons is really social media, because we have found that, when people stay informed and have these discussions, which is why the pressure and the tension continues to mount in Cameroon, because in darkness, in silence, nobody knows what's going on. And, we can fill the gap with innuendo. But when we do understand, and your most average person knows what's going on, they just cannot go about business as they have been. So what I am sharing with you is, please, you want to get on our channel, you want to find out what's going on. We're always going to be posting there. When you share flyers, another thing that I just was reminded of by Array is when we share the flyers from the channel, it gets tracked. So we're staying very informed and understanding how to manipulate social media in a way that is going to build, it's going to build numbers for us. So we really want to thank you, first of all, that you're a part of Project C. As you can see, Project C is not a certain people, it's not a few number of people. What we have tried to keep very simple is that we don't have titles. I keep saying this, there's not a president, a vice president, all of this. What we really have is the people. That's who we are. That's who you are. Now not everybody can talk at the same time. So as it is, some of us are talking now, but everyone is a part of this. So please, on projectcameroon.com is the center for where everything, if you've never visited. We also, from there, you would find out we have a YouTube channel. We're asking that you promote the channel, because the only way it's going to grow is by your promotion, and that is costing nothing. And of course, we want you to stay tuned with the channel. And then last but not least, we also want you to be a part of the Inside group. And that is being a part of Project C WhatsApp group. And you can share information from there also. So this is really different ways that we can interact, different ways that you can support, different ways that you can keep informed. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, so we're going to be hearing from Kenneth Tendo in a little bit, and he's going to tell you how you can contribute. And one of the things that has been coming up consistently is that as a nation, like Ari just mentioned, we have never known how to contribute as a nation. And the reason I choose to bring this up, and I've brought this up several times, because most of the time, if you've been in groups where lots of money have been raised, we say, oh, well, we're not raising money the right way, this. But I would love to remind us that if you raise money, maybe for a village group, I would just call them Meta people, and it really doesn't matter how many water holes has been bored or whatever. It doesn't matter, because as a country, we're still trapped. Are you with me? We are. So what we are changing here at Project C is understanding the psychology of our lack of contribution, not criticizing, but we're coming aware of the division that has taken place for a long time and how we're overcoming that. And part of that division is the lack of us seeing ourselves together as a nation, understanding the power. Because when I contribute to a Bamileke group or to a Meta group, or Southwest, maybe Manfred group, it's not helping Cameroon. And I'm not saying don't do that, please. I don't want anybody coming after me. But what I want to make a very important point. We have not known how to give as a country. And when we have this idea that we've been stolen from, we are leery of doing that, even though they've been such with other political groups. So what I am appealing to is that we understand, because when we understand, then we act differently. So what we in Project C are promoting is that as a nation, if we all, I propose that if we all just put $5 in a bucket with over 4 million Cameroonians around the world, we would raise enough money. So as we get started, I want you to understand that the work we are doing in the background is keeping us informed, keeping the conversation, alive. And that is definitely, as we know, is making a difference. And because this is being done in the background, nobody's being paid. We need you to contribute so we can be able to support all these children who are in jail. We want Shiroma's book to be published also, because that's going to make a huge difference. And there are many other things that Kenny is going to talk about later on. So with that being said, I'm going to step down. And Are, I think you were bringing up Eric. Do I have that right?
Yes, we were bringing up Eric whilst we're waiting to get the news roundup, but I'll bring in Eric just to situate this conversation we're going to have today in the context of what's happening in our beloved country, Cameroon.
Yeah, thank you, Are. I should have come in after the summary of the week, but we're going to have that summary of the week from Mimi and Junior Abena. I want to look at Cameroon, what happened in Cameroon this week, and what happened in the world from which we can draw some lessons. First of all, there's evidence this week that the country is sliding into the pits. And this is precisely, we must say this not to criticize people unnecessarily, but to raise awareness, to awaken our consciousness of where the country stands so that we can do something about it. We heard, some of us heard this week that parliamentary salaries had not been paid for the first time, maybe ever. The salary of parliamentarians. I mean, that's as bad as it gets. If you can't pay the representatives of the people on time, then of course the people, there are consequences to be drawn from that. So we had that. That was one of the, sure signs of the state of current the economy currently. Secondly, Cameroon, you must have heard about what the Brits did, the British, the UK government, including Cameroon, on a list of countries for whom they're no longer going to be giving visas for studies. The Cameroon was put in the group of countries that included Afghanistan, Myanmar, and Sudan, which is obviously, for very obvious reasons, Sudan is in a state of total crisis. A civil war is going on in the country, and everybody who can is running out. So obviously, the Senegalese are running out and putting pressure on systems that are stable, like the British system. And the government has decided they're not going to give any more visas to Senegalese students. But why Cameroon? Why is Cameroon in that crowd? These are questions we must ask ourselves, and hopefully try to reject the current state of affairs, because it is what has led to that. If it is as bad as in a country that's been destroyed by war, like Afghanistan, like Senegal, like Sudan, and like Myanmar, then the situation is fairly serious. And every Cameroonian ought to reflect on that. We're seeing what countries are doing outside, beyond Cameroon, what countries are doing to stabilize their financial situations, to get their economy on track and keep it on track. What I take, for example, Senegal, which has decided to literally just shut down 19 state agencies this week. And the reason for that was the production by these state agencies did not warrant the continued public expenditure on them. So their countries are, there 1,000 people in Senegal, 1,000 workers, are going to lose their jobs, but the government is also taking measures to reorientate them, maybe into, to become entrepreneurs, to go into the private sector, to look for jobs in the private sector. So it can actually work both ways. It can help the public sector have a hold on the budget, because Senegal, the Senegalese authorities realized that the country was 132% of its national income was going to debt servicing, or was needed for servicing the debt. The country is over indebted, so they have to reduce significantly. Cameroon is, and what are we doing in Cameroon? We're going out and borrowing. Even this week, again, the authorization was received to get more money, 108 billion francs from China, for investments that are not necessarily productive. So the 108 billion francs, which we're getting from the Chinese, will not produce wealth. It'll service, most of it will service debt, and then invest in some non-productive sector of the economy. And these are very significant problems, and I think it's important that we see what's happening in our country and find the strength to say no more debt. Senegal is not taking more debt. Senegal is reducing the public expenditure, and not in the sectors. It's not in health. It's not in education. It's not in infrastructure building. It's in sectors that are not productive. Public sector enterprises that are not productive, which makes a lot of sense. And we can see a lot of those public sector enterprises that are not productive. Why should Cameco continue to depend on subsidies? Clearly, Cameco is not working. And I'm not saying to shut it down. I'm just saying, let's look at it with cold calculation and make that determination if Cameco should exist. And there are lots of other public sector enterprises in Cameroon that should be looked at. We have 65 ministers in government. Do we need them? Do we need a ministry of education, higher education, primary education? Why don't we have a single minister of education? These are practical, very pragmatic things to do. And we're seeing other countries do what they should do. We're looking at, this week we saw Benin opening new social housing for its people, transforming the cityscape. Have we, ever since Ajo built the sick housing, have we had any, has there been any notion of social housing in Cameroon? Affordable housing for ordinary people. That's what social housing is all about. affordable housing for people. We've not seen that. So, there's when I heard about Benin opening these 20,000 social housing for its citizens, Senegal pruning a bloated bureaucracy, I was wondering, why not Cameroon? And I will end up with the topic of today's program, which is oil. For us to do a good job at running our economy, at providing the services that the public sector should provide to citizens, we have to leverage our natural resources. And what we are not doing. What we're going to look today into that. How good a job are we doing with leveraging our natural resources, starting with the most important of them, oil. The most important of them because oil brings about a third of our budget into the national economy. So let's look at all of that, and hopefully we will begin to understand where we can participate, where we can weigh in into the national discussion about how Cameroon handles its economy and hopefully provides the services it should provide to improve on the quality of life of citizens. That's what this is all about. And this week showed us exactly where these problems are. We're increasing debt. We are, we're not looking at they're expecting a new government, and it might be 65 ministers again, when we can bring it down to 15 or 20 at the most. We can, and citizens should be able to say that. We don't need more than 20 ministers. I don't think the United States has 20, probably less. So if they can do with less than that, why not Cameroon? Let's have a forceful and intentional discussion on how the country's economy should be run. And I want to say that this is very much a part of what Mr. Chiroma is offering when he comes into office. Cleaning up, ensuring that this country can live within its means, ensuring that our natural resources can be leveraged to support a lifestyle for all Cameroonians that is affordable and meaningful, and ensuring that there is there's accountability. So that we will be seeing audits, and you will hear a lot of that in the discussions that we're going to have today. So I want to, before handing over to Junior, if he's here, and I want to express my gratitude to our two speakers today. The well-known, the bâtonnier, je peux le dire en français, le bâtonnier Akere, well-known legal mind in Cameroon and Africa and the world to a very large extent. Respected. He's here with us today. As you know, he's a former presidential candidate. And one of the fairest financial minds in Cameroon today, Babissakana, he's with us. And he'll be giving us a good picture of how oil is being managed in Cameroon. And I want to welcome both of them. We'll have more time to talk about them when the time comes. So thank you both for being with us today. We will be coming to them, to both of you. And I will at this point call on Akere to introduce maybe our...
Thank you very much, Eric, for that, for drawing our attention to what may seem ordinary, what should be ordinary, but it's not in the context of our country. Just obvious decisions that should be made to move our country forward, and contextualizing that with what's happening in other countries around Africa, other countries that were on the same footing with Cameroon, getting independence at about the same time, and that have chosen to go in different directions and are moving forward as countries. So the next segment we're going to have, and at that point, I'm going to turn it up to our two hosts or moderators of the conversations with our panelists. Before that, we're going to just take 2 minutes of time, and I'll bring in Kenny Tendo to just quickly touch on the fundraising aspect of Project C, so people who are here know when I presented the vision and the mission, I said, get involved. One of the ways that you can get involved is going to be what Kenny is going to talk to you in the next 2 minutes. And after that, we're going to go into our segment for the day. So when Kenny is done, we're going to have this brilliant production that has been done that will introduce the theme of the day today, which is really around oil and accountability. So Kenny, I'm going to bring you in here and let me know you're on now.
Good. I'm on.
Yes.
Just real quick here, we're going to be able to share the income statement as well. No?
Yes, I'll do that right away.
Okay. So as Akere is working through that, thank you very much, guys. And really, I want to start by thanking all of our donors, supporters. Since August, you guys have done an amazing job. As you guys see on the screen there, it's been a battle to get to where we are at right now. But as you see, last month was not that crazy bad. But what you see on the screen there was contributions and where we stand, right? And as you can see, a lot of our funding basically coming from the US, some from the UK, but majority of where our money has come from and where our money is going, as we continue to talk to you guys about this stuff, is $77,000 is a large amount of money. But when you look at the time frame through which we've been raising this money, we should have a lot more than that because our commitments financially are very severe. I mean, we have the demands keep coming. A lot of the work you see happen in the background with a lot of people who just donate their time, right? Make sacrifices to get there. But a majority of the money we've raised, guys, and we're proud to say that is people who are contributing, $100 or less. When that's the case, that means that people are just giving their bare minimum to help support our cause, and for the most part, right, it's money that they can afford to live without. However, we've had some significant contributions, but not as much. Just 3% of the people that have donated have been over $1,000. We're hoping that after this conversation today, we're going to spark a lot of interest from people to understand that we need the funding, we need the money. If you want to go to the next slide, please, Akere.
Yes.
So as you can see, where is the money gone? Because a big part of what we do and talk about every day is the need for transparency and accountability. So majority of the money, as you see here, has gone pretty much to supporting local organizations. A lot of it has gone through just communication, the media, journalism. As we all know, a big part of what we struggle with in our country is just people not having the information, not knowing what to do, right? And so it's incumbent on us to make sure that we continue the fight on the grassroots level with investigative journalism, gathering information, pushing that information out there to everybody. So just so people can really see and understand, right? And so this is really where your money is going. And so, when we look at it, and I'm okay with the next slide. Where do we stand as of this morning? Right, we just under $2,500. It's where our budget is, and the need, guys, is huge. The need is huge. So I'm going to go through a bunch of things here. Why do we need this money? Right. A lot of everything we do in the background here, a lot of what drives Project C is people contributing their own personal time, right? There's only one person. We finally got an administrative assistant who's helping us do a lot of this stuff in the background that will paying them a little stipend. There's a lot of need for legal support, like a legal defense fund for people that are currently in jail, pre-election, post-election. There are people in jail, kids in jail that cannot even afford food, medical care, medical support. Like I continue to say, we need to support the journalists who are on the ground. They need our help. They need our support to penetrate the grassroots levels and get that information out there. We need to continue to educate people as to why they need to get together and fight this fight, right? And some of the initiatives that were supported, like you guys saw on the screen, they were supported the truckers. When the need was there. That need is not just the truckers. There's many different facets of our community that need support from us. So please, let's join. We have an elected president who is out. He's on exile. He needs our support. He needs our help. He's putting a book out there that talks about his agenda. We need funding to help support that cause as well. So, we as a people struggle with philanthropic activities because a lot of mistrust has happened in the past. There's many people who got excited, have been engaged in other groups, put their money, but there was no accountability. We in Project C were very different because we believe that you need to know where your money is going, and that's why we can come here and look you in the face and ask you for some contributions to help us continue this fight. We Cameroonians, we're part of Jangi groups, right? Which have monthly expectations of us. And that's kind of what we're kind of digging into here is, can we make a monthly contribution towards Project C and the causes that we support? We turn out in droves when it comes to funerals, right? And other celebrations. But we also understand the financial need back home to support our extended family members. Let's look at this Project C as an extension of your family, because what Project C stands for is to continue this fight for you and your family and to help us reclaim what belongs to us. So how can you be part of this? How can you help us financially? You can go to our website, projectcameroon.com, and it's very, very simple, and make a contribution there. For those of you who work in companies that have an option for you to do a pre-tax deduction that can go monthly towards what we're doing, our tax ID number, which is we're 501c, which means that whatever money you give to us is tax deductible, right? It's a tax write-off for you. Our tax ID number is 413591947. You can reach out to any of us and we'll be able to provide that information to you to help facilitate an easy way to contribute or donate. You can go to the Cash App, I Am Cameroon, right? $sign I Am Cameroon, and also make donations there. Zelle, you can also use Zelle. The Zelle number we have is 63667511766. PayPal is also an option. So please do not hesitate, right? So we're asking you that why should you donate? Why should you contribute, right? So I said initially, this fight is our fight for our country to reclaim what belongs to us. The topic today is very appropriate to get people energized. Because why? Our natural resources, to name a few, our seaport, the oil and gas, timber, gold, and many more natural resources that belong to you, my fellow Cameroonians. They belong to us. The resources should be used to make our people and our country better. But what has happened? There are a few people in the government that run the country who have taken these resources from us. They have stolen this from us, right? There are people that, I mean, we're going to talk about those people today, but those people, just mentioning of their names should get you guys fired up, excited, and want to dig down and find some money to support our cause. There's power in numbers. There's 4 million of us as diasporans, 4 million. Just the bare contribution that you can afford to make without blinking an eye is what we're asking for. Please do not get off the call today. Every one of you, wherever you are, push this information to your family members, your friend, the social groups that you belong to, your Njangi groups, your alma maters, your village groups. Push it out there. We need the funding, because without the funding, it's really difficult. We're not going to stop this fight. This is a fight that we must win. But we cannot win this fight without your help, without your financial contribution. So please don't get off this call today without making a minimal contribution, whether it's $25, $50, $100. We need the funding, because without the funding, we cannot come here every Saturday and let the voices of the people heard for causes that you should be passionate about. So with that, please, thank you for listening today. Don't get off without contributing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kenny, for making that pitch. And I hope the audience out there hears and stands with us. At this point, I'm going to introduce the next segment, and I'm going to do that with a video. And at the end of the video, I'm going to bring in our panelists, Leopold, our moderators, Leopold and Kenneth. And after that, we'll introduce our speakers for today, and we'll have the segment on the oil and accountability and how the wealth of our country can be put to work in the interest of the people. So please stay tuned and let's watch this. Yeah, somebody give me a thumbs up.
The story of Cameroonian oil begins long before independence. As early as 1904, under the German protectorate, the KBA, a German company, launched the first searches. After the First World War, France took over in 1923. A turning point occurred in 1947. Geologist Andreff drew up a systematic mapping of the Douala Basin. His conclusions were visionary. The probability of deposits is as great in Cameroon as in Gabon. The machine was set in motion. On September 27, 1951, Serepco was born. It would become the pioneer, soon joined by Alf Aquitaine, acting as the armed wing of colonial and later post-colonial prospection. On February 20, 1952, first exploration permit was granted. It would take 20 years for the Rio del Rey Basin to reveal its treasure. The Betica offshore field in 1972. Asoma and Koli would follow. In 1977, Cameroon changed dimension. It officially became a producing country. Today, 3 types of crude leave our lands: locally heavy, Koli medium, and ebony, the latter being our pride, sold with a premium on the London market. 2 giants dominate extraction today. The Franco-British group Perenco, undisputed leader for 30 years, extracts nearly 90,000 barrels per day. Alongside it, the Chinese giant Sinopec, via its subsidiary Adax Petroleum, ensures 30% of national production in 2025. And at the center of this chessboard, the NHS, the National Hydrocarbons Corporation. Created in 1980, it is meant to be the state's secular arm. Its mission: to manage our interests, market our share of crude, and power our industries. As of October 31, 2024, It declared a contribution of 440 billion CFA francs to the public treasury. But behind these official figures, what is the reality? The governance of the NHS rests on a unique structure, directly attached to the presidency of the Republic. A two-headed system. Ferdinand Ngo, chairman of the board and secretary general of the presidency. Adolphe Mediki, the immovable executive general manager. In January 2026, a reshuffle further tightened this circle with the appointment of Nathalie Mediki, the wife of the general manager, as counselor number 2. This concentration of power highlights the shadows of a management where national control fades behind private interests. The sharing keys between multinationals and the state remains a mystery to the people. While the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative (EITI) mentions a 50-50 split, the exact revenues are obscured. A study by Professors Bernard Gauthier and Albert Sifak for Oxford University lifted a corner of the veil. Their conclusions on the 1977 to 2006 period are damning. Out of an estimated $19.8 billion in oil revenues due to the state, the government only declared $9.1 billion. Where did the missing $10.7 billion go? Approximately 54% of the oil rent was never officially transferred to the national budget.
Voici la maternité légère. Donc, par mois, on a au moins 18 femmes qu'on accouche par mois.
Oui.
Par an, là, ça doit être 50 quelque chose de malades.
On peut visiter cette maternité là, madame, c'est terrible. Voici la maternité d'un centre de santé au Cameroun.
C'est là qu'on accouche nos femmes.
Madame, ça, ce sont des bambous. Ça,
On fait comment? Hein?
ça vous appelez, c'est même pas un lit, vous avez fabriqué ça, je ne sais pas comment.
Fabriqué.
Madame, ça.
Parce que comme le centre, le district ne nous est pas donné, on doit faire comme ça. On doit faire comment? On nous envoie travailler, on doit faire comment?
Et comment vous faites là, c'est le seau?
Ça, c'est le seau dès qu'on accouche. On met l'eau là, on fait comme ça par les rivières là-bas.
Oui. Mais laissez la femme, je vois même un peu de tas de sang ici.
Ça qui est déjà sec en bas là.
Oui. Il vous dit c'est une cinquantaine de femmes par an.
Par an, oui, parce que le mois-ci, je suis déjà à 18.
Oui.
Oui, je vais accoucher ce mois-ci.
Oui.
Demain, le 31, non, on ne sait pas, peut-être il y aura encore 2 ou 3. Des fois, on fait 3 accouchements par jour.
Project C begins today a series of discussions to break this silence. Since the 1970s, this model of opacity has deprived Cameroon of vital resources for its development, for its schools, for its hospitals. 74% of the country's revenue comes from this oil, and it has been controlled for over 43 years by a single individual and his close circle. It is time to inform, to sensitize, and to demand accountability. Because truth is a right and justice is a light for our steps.
That was a brilliant production about which there's so many questions that one would have when at the end that I have, and I'm sure that our audience does have, and it really brings us to the conversation that we're going to be having today. This video was directed, produced by one of the members of Project C here, who is a professional filmmaker, Francois Wakwoche. And Francois, if you can just come on here for a minute, and just before we go into the panelists, and really shed some light behind the conception of this and the message that is you sought to communicate with this production.
Yeah.
Oui, bonjour, bonsoir tout le monde, en fonction de l'endroit où vous vous trouvez dans le monde. J'avais pas prévu d'intervenir là parce que je me disais que la vidéo parlait et qu'on avait des invités beaucoup plus qualifiés pour nous dire des choses. Écoutez, je sais pas trop quoi dire. Je pense que les images sont assez éloquentes et que, bon, ça fait mal au cœur. Enfin, voilà, j'ai dit, je sais même pas ce qu'il a à dire d'autre.
Oui.
Ça fait le cœur. J'ai dit, il y a d'autres images, hein, il y a encore d'autres choses. Et bon, on sait ça.
Oui.
Je pense que tous ceux qui ont un rapport au Cameroun, qui ont vécu, qui ont de la famille, on sait tout ça. Le problème, c'est que on a souvent tendance à l'oublier ou à le mettre de côté. Et c'est pour ça que le travail que nous essayons de faire dans Project C est important pour garder ces éléments en présence dans l'espace public, dans le débat public, pour qu'on sache quel est l'essentiel en fait. L'essentiel, c'est le Cameroun, l'essentiel, c'est les Camerounais, c'est le bonheur du Cameroun. Et de rappeler aux gens que nous avons un pays qui est capable de rendre tous les Camerounais heureux, de donner une bonne vie aux Camerounais. Ce n'est pas malheureusement encore le cas, malheureusement. Voilà, donc c'est vraiment une modeste contribution et c'est un travail d'équipe. Voilà, on a tous c'est ça, moi je ne m'attendais même pas à ce qu'on m'interpelle là. Je pense qu'on a travaillé ensemble là-dessus en termes d'information, etc. Et que la série de discussions que nous lançons là, j'espère, va permettre effectivement extrêmement, de façon forte, de faire en sorte que les Camerounais reprennent possession à la fois de leur réalité, mais de la façon de dire leur réalité au monde. Ça, c'est extrêmement important. Et de nouveau, puisqu'on me donne la parole, je lance un appel à tous mes collègues artistes, et notamment cinéastes. Rejoignez le mouvement. Il faut rejoindre le mouvement, s'il vous plaît. On a besoin de ce travail. On a besoin de tout le monde. Nous avons besoin que le maximum de forces camerounaises soient mobilisées pour apporter un vrai changement à ce pays, pour que nos populations, nos familles, parce que c'est de nos familles en fait qu'il s'agit, il ne faut pas oublier, nos enfants et nos petits-enfants vivent enfin dans un pays, dans le pays qu'ils méritent. Et pour ça, nous devons faire ce travail et nous devons le faire de façon collective et chacun doit essayer d'apporter sa modeste contribution. Voilà, merci.
Merci beaucoup, Francois. That was, yes, we brought you in. We didn't plan to bring you in, but I think it's really important for us to give credit where credit is due. And this is work that you're a professional. You're offering this to this movement. There's no monetary value that we can place on this because this is more than just work. This is passion, and this is a contribution that you're making to your beloved country. And we just wanted to thank you, take this moment to thank you for that. And I'm glad that you asked for other professionals and artists who are Cameroonians to play their part in this movement for change in our country. So thank you. Thank you very much. At this point, I am going to bring in our moderators for the conversation around oil and accountability. Our moderators are Leopold Zesui and Kenneth Nde, who will be engaging with our guests. At this point, I'm going to also, Eric did introduce our guests briefly, but I'm going to invite them to join us at this point. Barrister Akere Muna, longtime barrister in Cameroon, served as president of the Cameroon Bar Council, and was recently a presidential candidate in the last election. Is going to be our guest. We're also going to be inviting our other panelists. I would like to introduce Babissakana, if you can turn on your
camera.
The camera. Babissakana, who is a financial engineer and the chairman and CEO of a large financial group in Cameroon, who both our speakers will be bringing their contributions to this conversation about oil accountability and how oil governance and how it can be brought to the wealth of the nation can be brought to the service of the people. So I'll turn this over to Leopold and Kenneth to take it from here with our panelists.
Thank you very much, Ari. Good day again. À partir des reportages poignants que nous avons eus tout à l'heure, on pourrait dire que le pétrole du Cameroun doit plutôt éclairer des foyers, booster des foyers et non éclairer seulement quelques poches. Et de ce point de vue-là, nous savons aussi que dans un pays, il n'y a pas de richesse sans justice. Et donc, on pourrait aussi dire qu'il n'y a pas de pétrole sans transparence. Et de ce point de vue-là, le bâtonnier Akere est extrêmement bien placé pour pouvoir parler, nous éclairer sur ces aspects-là. La première question qui nous vient à l'esprit, c'est Glencore, le scandale Glencore, que vous avez si bien développé, les enquêtes qui ont été si bien menées au Cameroun et ailleurs. Pourquoi est-ce que le Cameroun est si silencieux? Et quel pourrait être l'impact de ce silence-là sur la crédibilité de notre pays?
Leopold, just before our former presidential candidate comes in, just for to clarify one or two things to the general public, or at least those of our viewers who are watching right now. When they talk of oil in Cameroon, I think that most people just know Sonara. A lot of people, I don't think, are aware of SNH and the various bodies that govern the oil, the entire oil revenue in Cameroon. So there are principally four of them. You have Société Nationale d'Hydrocarbures, which is based out there in Yaoundé. Those are the main guys who sell Cameroon's oil, so to speak, in the international market. Or how can I put it? Or they receive the revenue in one way or another in banks either in Cameroon or offshore funds. The next guy is Société Camerounaise de Dépôt de Pétrole. Those are the oil, those are the huge tankers that store petroleum and distribute petroleum products throughout the country, SCDP. Yeah. It is somewhere on the road to the old airport in Yaoundé. And then you also have CSPH, which was brought into the picture a little bit recently, Caisse de Stabilisation des Prix des Hydrocarbures. I don't know exactly what that does, but they find a way to have an office somewhere there in Yaoundé and produce some Excel spreadsheets and claim that the government subsidizes petrol at the pump per liter. However that is done, God alone knows. It all falls under the class of a nebulous web. And then, of course, you have Sonara, which is in Victoria, what Paul Biya now calls Limbe, Société Nationale de Raffinerie, which got burned. And while it got burned, it was not even, those guys failed to pay the insurance. So the place, part of it is burned, and I don't know what is going on there now. And so, yes, we are glad to have our eminent personalities who have taken a deep dive into this sector. I'll now pass the Mike or have Mr. Akere Muna take it up from here and respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be on this panel, also with my good friend and brother, Babissakana, whom I haven't seen for a while. So it's really a pleasure. I must congratulate Project C, because Cameroonians need information. It's not only about elections. And we know that this government thrives by opacity. And this, what you're doing now, is going to hit them hard. I know. I've gotten the consequences of what I'm doing. And what you're going to do, shining the light on this sector, is going to help our country greatly. You know, accountability is not just, it's an abstract concept. See, the difference, I should say, between money building roads, hospitals, schools, and helping people out, and the money disappearing into opacity, is systemic opacity. And that's the biggest problem we have in our country. Because it is really the heart of the matter. So I don't know. I would say the first question I would like us to face is, why does oil wealth fail to benefit the citizens? It's because of three leakages, which I think we should think about seriously. Revenue opacity, weak oversight and concentrated decision-making, and short-termism, the kind of things they invest in, you know. And accountability comes after transparency. Because if you don't know what's happening, you cannot hold people accountable. So you need to have the information before you can query people about what is happening. And I've done my very best in my investigation in Glencore to put the information out. The disappointing thing is that Cameroonians don't realize that they have to arm themselves with information. People like Babissakana, they should be real gold in this country because of what they can produce and information. But people get hot about, you know, really issues that doesn't help our country. We are part of EITI, and EITI is the resources belong to the people, no more, no less. So holding the people accountable is essential. I don't know if the system we have today can be salvaged by saying that holding people accountable. Can it be salvaged? I keep saying this, it's like asking, you know, the fish to provide the funding for the hooks. I mean, you know, they will never do that. So it's important for us to realize that we will need a systemic mutation to be able to, I mean, this country is so complicit in a losses. I'll just give you a latest example. You know, Glencore signed a plea agreement in New York in 1922. In 2022, it signed this agreement with the Department of Justice in America that has to do with compliance. And in Article 12 of the agreement, it said clearly, any information which is sought by victim countries must be supplied. And that agreement was valid for 3 years. It means a country could have gone to Glencore, asked them for who are those they bribed, how much money was involved, any information. And if Glencore did not give the information, they could go back to the Department of Justice. But that was valid for 3 years. It expired last year. So this is the complicit nature of the behavior of a country, which makes me wonder. When I came out with this, when I disclosed what was happening in 2022, I think, or 2022, SNH refused that nothing like that can happen because their internal regulations forbade it. That's crazy. Anyway, it's important to know that 1 year afterwards, in 2023, Glencore now owed about something, and then they filed a complaint against an unknown person. How on earth can you be accused of corruption in your company? You don't carry out internal, you don't even ask your customers, because SNH dealing with Glencore today. Say, man, you say you bribe. Who did you bribe? None of that has been done. None of that. So we have a system which is rotten to the core, which cannot be reformed, it cannot be fixed, because those in it are those creating this. And we have a system which Aiju, as a benevolent dictator, put in place, this opacity around our own oil production. Well, it depends on his own behavior, his honesty in management of oil resources. But those who came after him have now benefited from this to just steal. That's what they have done. They just stolen our resources. Can you imagine today the company SNH, which is the sole company managed by, under the supervision of the presidency, with the secretary of the presidency as the chairman of the board, that is the only person who sells our oil. Can you imagine? Today, the company is managed by the wife of the general manager, who is the director of legal services. I hear she was appointed as special advisor or something. She was appointed director of the legal services by her husband. And the husband has been seen for 3 years. And today, these resources are managed by this lady who is signing agreements, who is going to offshore companies. How on earth can Cameroonians be serene when something like this is happening before their own eyes? The price of oil today is $80. It's supposed to go to $120 or even $150. Cameroonians should be rubbing their hands and say, of course, it doesn't concern us. As you know, Kenneth hinted at on before. Sonara is burned down. Even if Sonara was in existence, Sonara cannot even refine our oil, because ours is heavy crude. We have to export our oil and import oil to refine. So as it stands up today, anyway, we cannot refine any oil. So we export our crude and import refined oil. So whatever profit we would have made from selling our crude is wiped out by the fact that we're going to have to buy oil at the new oil prices. So these, I don't want to go to all the details. We maybe in a conversation we shall develop more, but it will tell you that the system as it stands makes accountability impossible. We are suspended from EIHI because of opacity, and those who saw my decree, I'm rather upset because Leopold, you're on there as the founder of TI. For me to sit down as the founder of TI and hear that TI Cameroon, please, is in collaboration with SNH, a company accused internationally of corruption with Sonara. Glencore admitted flying dollars in private planes to give to people, admitted opening private accounts as a cash counter in Switzerland and opening one in London. What the hell is this? These are matters that should get everybody out in the street. I told my brothers from South in Limbe, I said, are you kidding me? This is oil is stored right in your background and you guys don't have an issue with this? I've always wondered why the headquarters of SNH is in Yaoundé when the drilling is in Limbe. I mean, just like the national mining company is here in Yaoundé when it should be in Limbe. So anyway, to make a long story short for the moment, I think that accountability is essential. But accountability comes after transparency. We must know what's happening. We must, the production, how much do we produce? Who buys it? How do we give the contracts? None of that is known. That is why another company, a trader, Vitol was getting our oil at 70% discount. Nobody has asked the question. I have written to them. I have made comments in the press. Nobody has answered to them. Yesterday just lies. And so that's what we have. And I think, therefore, this process of information is essential. I think I would leave it there so that, maybe Babissakana can speak.
Ok, oui, justement, merci beaucoup. Frère Babissakana, comment est-ce que ce pétrole peut finalement servir à ce pays? C'est-à-dire que le puissant, le remarquable rapport que tu as fait sur l'audit de notre pétrole, comment est-ce que cela pourrait vraiment profiter aux Camerounais?
Merci. Je voudrais remercier les leaders de OGXC et pour cette invitation à prendre la parole. J'ai préparé quelques présentations, hein, quelques fiches que je voulais, si vous me permettez de partager mon écran, hein, pour vous situer mes points principaux que je voudrais mettre sur la table en fait, de cette plateforme qui est bien placée pour bousculer un peu, vous voyez, ce qui est établi.
Tout à fait.
Nous savons que...
On va voir au niveau de... Si Akere, si Are peut, ou Elisabeth peuvent peut-être nous aider à... OK, great. C'est possible. C'est possible, je crois. Très bien.
Est-ce que vous voyez mon écran?
Tout à fait. À notre niveau, c'est, je crois... Kenneth, can you see the screen?
Yes,
okay,
it's clear. It's
yeah.
clear.
Sure.
Voilà. Je voulais, pour cette introduction rapidement, vous voyez, vous donner 3 points importants que je considère pour ce débat. Il y a d'abord un retour historique qui est très, très important. Maître Akere venait de dire qu'il y a un système qui a été établi et qui a vraiment la peau dure. Si vous ne regardez pas la base de ce système, en fait, ça va être difficile de renverser la vapeur. Donc, je voudrais parler un peu du contexte, vous voyez, de la découverte du pétrole et ce qui s'est passé. Après, on va voir comment est-ce que les revenus ont circulé et en matière de gouvernance. Et nous allons terminer vers la fin sur comment faire. Alors, le premier point que je voulais vous indiquer, c'est qu'il faut savoir que la découverte du pétrole au Cameroun a opéré ce qu'on appelle un choc de gouvernance. Et donc, c'est très important. Le choc était interne et externe. Et ce choc interne a tout bouleversé. Tout bouleversé. Donc, la première chose, c'est en matière d'exploration, la France a investi, vous voyez, pour chercher le pétrole, parce qu'elle voulait absolument renforcer son indépendance énergétique. Et la France a créé donc une filiale, une société, FCREPCA, qui conduisait les opérations d'exploration. Donc, dans les années 60, compte tenu des découvertes qui se sont faites au Nigeria, donc ce groupe français a donc orienté la profondeur des recherches, vous voyez, dans le bassin de Rio del Rey, hein, au sud-ouest, dans la zone maritime. Et donc, c'est précisément, vous voyez, en 1964 que le président Ahidjo a été informé, en fait, que les indicateurs de découverte du pétrole sont déjà établis. Vous voyez, parce que la recherche pétrolière, ça se fait pas en un jour. Donc, c'est un processus sur plusieurs années. En général, on sait déjà, à partir du moment où on a les résultats de ce qu'on appelle les ressources, pas les réserves, ce qu'on appelle les ressources, on sait déjà qu'un bassin, en fait, dispose des ressources pétrolières. entre cette période et la déclaration des réserves, vous voyez, c'est passé un certain temps. Et donc, 64 est l'année où Ahidjo a été au courant que les Français ont découvert d'importantes ressources dans le bassin de Rio del Rey. Vous voyez, et à partir de là, donc, la question c'était pour Ahidjo et les Français que, mais attendez, Rio del Rey, c'est à l'état du Cameroun occidental. Vous voyez, et l'organisation institutionnelle fait que Ahidjo ne peut pas avoir la même mise. Vous voyez, pour décider de comment les choses vont se faire. C'est là que, ça c'est important, l'impérieuse nécessité que la France mette la main sur ce pétrole, vous voyez, a poussé à ce qu'on démantèle notre référence, vous voyez, institutionnelle la plus importante depuis les indépendances, c'était la Constitution fédérale. Et ils ont donc inventé un référendum de paille. Vous voyez, ce n'était pas un véritable référendum, c'était un instrument juste pour tromper, vous voyez, le peuple, alors que derrière, les enjeux, c'était comment donner les pouvoirs à Ahidjo pour qu'il puisse gérer directement, exclusivement et personnellement, vous voyez, les allocations de contrats. Et c'est pour ça que ce référendum de 20 mai 72 a donc, vous voyez, fait sauter notre architecture qui avait été vraiment établie compte tenu des paramètres structurels, vous voyez, du Cameroun, avec ses composantes fondamentales, historiques. Et c'est de là que par ce que j'appelle dans le choc historique de gouvernance, c'est ça. Ce choc a conduit à des conséquences donc graves. Vous voyez, quand on a donc introduit l'État unitaire, vous voyez, je l'appelle État unitaire maudit, hein, et envoûté par la rente pétrolière. Pourquoi? Parce que le pétrole, comme c'est une ressource qui est, pour ce cas, forêt en zone maritime, c'est-à-dire vous n'êtes même pas là. Personne n'est même au courant du côté continental. Donc ça sort là-bas dans le fleuve, l'eau, et ça part. Et dans cette manne, vous voyez, cette rente pétrolière-là a donc été exposée maintenant, puisque si vous voyez les découvertes qui se sont succédées, 72, 73, 74, non, c'était planifié. Ce n'était pas au hasard, c'était qu'après qu'on soit sûr que le chef de l'État unitaire va donner à la France, vous voyez ce qu'elle veut, les choses se sont donc déroulées assez facilement. Et je vous dis que l'entrée de la malédiction du pétrole, vous connaissez le syndrome irlandais, mais pour nous, c'est aussi un syndrome. Donc je l'appelle syndrome camerounais. Le syndrome camerounais est entré où? À la présidence de la République, c'est-à-dire y compris l'homme et aussi les structures. Donc c'est comme ça que cet État unitaire, hein, dirigé par Ahidjo, c'est lui, la présidence qui porte donc la gestion du pétrole. L'arrivée de Biya, dont n'a strictement rien changé. Au contraire, les dépravations, vous voyez, autour de la gestion du pétrole se sont développées de façon exponentielle. Exponentielle, ce que Maître venait de dire, si vous pouvez voir la femme du DG de SNH à coquiner avec la femme du président, c'est-à-dire que c'est ça l'apparat qui est devant, mais derrière, ce qui veut dire que, en fait, voilà, c'est comme si c'était quelque chose qui appartient là-bas à la famille. On gère ça comme on veut. Et la question donc devient, à partir du moment où l'or noir est entré à la présidence, vous avez vu de 77, quand on commence à vendre le pétrole, la gestion se fasse directement par le président. Ça se fait à la présidence. Il n'y a même pas de société encore. De 77 à 80, vous voyez, avant la création de SNH, tout se gère directement à la présidence. Et on crée, Aïdjo crée donc les comptes hors budget à l'étranger. Vous voyez, où on place donc les réserves, les revenus pétroliers en dollars. Et il a même réussi à échapper un peu au compte d'opération du Trésor français. Vous voyez, pour créer des comptes directement dans les banques. Parce que c'est un deal. C'était le deal dont les Français sont tranquilles. Bon, tu peux gérer les revenus là comme tu veux, mais nous, on a déjà ce qu'on voulait. Et la SNH n'est créée qu'en 80. Et on consacre donc, vous voyez ce qui s'est passé déjà avant. La SNH est donc mise sous tutelle technique et financière du secrétariat général de la présidence de la République. Depuis 80. Donc, rien n'a changé depuis lors. Tout ce qu'on peut voir, le maquillage, qu'on peut faire des petites réformettes, ça n'a strictement rien changé. Donc, le pétrole est directement géré dans un flou total, parce que les comptes hors budget, c'est comme des comptes secrets. Ils ne sont pas au trésor. Vous voyez, ils sont là-bas à la présidence, vous ne savez même pas qui les gère. Donc, c'est la présidence avec la SNH. Donc, ça, c'est très important de regarder matériellement comment les choses se passent. Et donc, lorsque on vient parler, vous voyez, de comment les flux circulent, il faut avoir en background ces éléments structurels. Et pour nous, on considère que la gestion pétrolière, depuis lors, depuis Aïdjo, c'est uniquement une démonstration du syndrome camerounais. C'est-à-dire une démonstration de la malédiction du pétrole, de l'or noir. Donc les gens, ils perdent la tête. Ils oublient le peuple. Le peuple n'existe pas. Le peuple n'existe pas. Le pétrole en mer, il est géré par eux. Ils gèrent les revenus comme ils veulent. C'est ça qui s'est traduit par les chiffres que le professeur Gauthier, Albert, vous savez, ils ont vraiment fait un travail extraordinaire parce qu'on a tous les chiffres depuis les années 77. Et là, si vous regardez le graphique là, il y a la courbe en haut qui est en fait le niveau de production que nous connaissons à l'international. Ça, c'est la Banque mondiale qui a sorti. Mais ce niveau est plus élevé que ce qui est déclaré par SNH. C'est-à-dire vous avez d'abord un premier problème de la traçabilité du niveau de production. Donc la vraie production est plus élevée que celle que la SNH retrace. Vous voyez, ça, c'est les statistiques internationales. Ce n'est pas quelque chose qui est discutable, c'est là.
Et c'était d'ailleurs un problème avec l'IITI, hein, le décalage des chiffres.
Oui. Donc, les cas là, il faut faire attention. Donc, c'est les cas de stock. Ce n'est pas encore les prix. Donc, les prix viennent s'ajouter au décalage du stock. Donc, les prix dont le maître Akere venait de parler, les différences des prix datent de depuis. C'est depuis que les gars, ils manœuvrent les prix dans le noir. C'est récemment donc la découverte, là, comme le maître a mis tout ça dehors, que c'est un peu compréhensible, mais c'est là depuis. Et si vous regardez donc le travail qui a été fait par les gars, c'est que entre les revenus qui normalement devaient entrer, malgré même la modification de la production, qui devait entrer donc dans les caisses du Trésor, on a un écart important qui est de plus de 10 milliards de dollars. Pourquoi? Parce qu'entre 77 et 88, il n'y avait aucune déclaration des revenus dans le budget de l'État. C'est-à-dire qu'Aïdjo, puis Biya, ils géraient ça dans le noir, les comptes secrets, les comptes hors bilan, hors budget. Le FMI, donc, dans le premier programme stand-by en 88, leur dit que, mais attendez, non, vous êtes un pays producteur de pétrole, il faut mettre le revenu du pétrole dans le budget. C'est là qu'ils sont donc obligés, vous voyez, d'inscrire une partie des revenus pour la première fois en 88 dans le budget de l'État. Donc, 77 à 88, on ne sait pas. Vous comprenez? On n'a pas, même dans le budget de l'État, ce n'est pas traçable. C'est dans les comptes hors budget et les comptes secrets gérés par la présidence de la République là-bas.
S'il te plaît, pour t'appuyer un tout petit peu, on se rappelle il y a une quarantaine d'années de l'interview de l'ancien DG de la SNH, M. Achsoumou, qui avait dit à la CRTV que les chiffres du pétrole, ça se discute uniquement entre lui et le président de la République. C'est pour appuyer ce que tu dis.
Très bien. Très bien. En fait, c'est dit que les chiffres qui peuvent être officiels, le DGSNH discute avec le président, mais les chiffres non officiels, c'est secret. C'est-à-dire, là encore, c'est secret. C'est que même si le DG parle, il ne parle pas de ça. Et si vous regardez donc les caractéristiques du syndrome camerounais, regardez les courbes de dépenses. Regardez la ligne, la courbe qui fixe les investissements, c'est-à-dire les capital expenditures, c'est la ligne ici. Avant, ça avait quand même un peu augmenté jusqu'à les années 85 par là. Regardez comment ça a chuté. Voilà. Pendant que la consommation, la courbe d'en haut là, ne fait que monter. Donc, on n'investit rien avec les revenus pétroliers, la rente, on consomme. Premier élément, c'est-à-dire du syndrome camerounais. Deuxième, vous voyez la courbe ici, donc voici les investissements qui tombent complètement plus bas là. Voilà les revenus pétroliers qui montent là. Vous voyez l'inverse entre les revenus qu'on tire de notre ressource qui nous appartient à tous et l'investissement qu'on fait pour le peuple. Le décalage est tellement profond. Il est tellement profond que c'est irrésistible. Ensuite, regardez la dette. Pendant que les revenus pétroliers que vous avez vus là-bas montent, vous voyez aussi la dette qui a grimpé. La dette a grimpé jusqu'à ce qu'on nous fasse le PPTE qui nous a fait chuter la dette ici, en 2006. Mais sachez que sur les dernières années, depuis 2006 à 2026, la courbe de la dette est remontée en flèche.
Okay. Mr. Babissakana, please, can you just go back to the previous screen? While you're on this screen, I would,
this one.
yes, while you're on this screen, I would love to plug Mr. Akere at this point while on this screen to talk about maybe, I guess, Transparency International vis-a-vis why Cameroon was ejected from the EITI, the Extractive Industries Initiative.
Exactly.
That would be the first part as far as this particular screen is concerned. And then the next question I would have, maybe I think you would be best to address it as well, is just call it the nebulous networks that are currently involved in the oil industry vis-a-vis Nathalie Ngamba, Modiki, yes, Modiki, Mr. Adolf Modiki's wife, Nathalie Ngamba, whose father was imprisoned in 1972 after the African Nations Cup by Amadou Ahidjo. So you can, we want you to give us more knowledge about Savannah Energy, Tradex, And whatever else Natalie has done with her husband vis-a-vis Edge, that has contributed immensely to this, our external debt, and even parliamentarians not being paid this past month.
Kenneth, thank you so much. I have to firstly thank my brother and close friend Babissakana for his background analysis, because he gives you an insight into the kind of situation we find ourselves. Really, because as he says, this resource curse is something which is really, really killing us. And the question you ask about the networks and the opacity around this is because it is desired. You just mentioned Tradex. All these different things were created because, as Babissakana just said, the IMF was now tightening the screws on us. So we now have to have form this company Tradex, which now commercializes our oil by selling it. It's now present in Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and in the DRC. We should mention that Bia's stepson, Frank Ertz, is now a member of the board of all those, including this company, Sea Star, which is a company, an offshore company created. Nobody knows how it was created. Nobody knows who authorized it. I mean, nobody knows, like, yeah, okay. The vice president of Equatorial Guinea comes here, goes to SNH. Not a single minister is there, not even the chairman of the board. And the person who receives him is this lady who is totally conflicted because legal advisor, wife to the boss, and it's really amazing that all the rules of corporate governance have been turned upside down and nobody is saying anything. I even found out that all the documents concerning sales by Sonara and dealings by Sonara with Glencore were totally emptied from Sonara and taken to the presidency. So I'm saying that, what is happening today? When I think and I look at documents, I have goosebumps. What is the courage that permits people to do stuff like this? They, as Babissakana said, they have totally turned this into a family affair. And when you see a picture of Nathalie Mudiki with the First Lady, it's a message that we are covered. We have this covered. What can you do? All right. So you have Tradex now, which has, I think, also has a part of it in Switzerland. You have SCDP, which is now Nathalie Mudiki now is opening this company in Kribi, which is supposed to be stocking strategic stocks of petrol. So why is CDP, which is created for that, why is it not functioning? Okay, they got the prime minister that there will be no refinery built in Kribi. Of course they are building refineries, so they say. How are they going to move the oil, the crude from Limbe all the way down there? And the thing is what Babi has been saying, the fact that the political structure, the systemic structure, the institutional structure of this country is very much aligned with the management of our oil resources. He's right there. You should not forget that the French wanted our oil to be refined in Gabon. And they asked Aijo that, no, we'll make a pipeline and we'll get it to Gabon and it will be cheaper and all that. Guy said, no, I want my own refinery. I cannot go to Gabon. And out of spite, what did the French do? They built a refinery which doesn't refine our oil to about 90-something%. So we still have to. So the former general manager, who is probably unfortunately in jail, I keep forgetting his name, Metuk, was now trying to get us modernize a refinery so we could actually have a refinery that refines our own oil. I know that American banks in 2019 hurried here, put money on the table, said, we're going to fix your refinery. and they will just turn around, and nothing happens. So there's a will, one, to make sure that Sonarai dies. Secondly, how can operation be moved on to Kribi? It is really sad that all this is happening, and Cameroonians don't really, and that's what bothers me. You see, the work that Babis does and myself we do, we don't have the Cameroonians feeling hurt. They don't look like people who are victims. You know, they just sort of like say, okay, you know, they only wake up for elections, and then that's it. So really, to come back to Kenneth, there is a network that ensures that the oil is stolen. Glencore itself said we opened a counter for payment in Switzerland. It was closed in 2016. We opened another counter for payment in 2011 in London, and that was also closed down. These are documents from courts that say how the guys were doing, and to this date, nobody bothers. Nobody bothers. And till this systemic change takes place, I'm sure that we're going to still be in this. And you know, I don't know what to say, but it is really sad, as Babi was saying. It is really sad because the information is out there. All this grass and the work done by this bright duo that showed exactly what there is to be done. All transparency of them we are suspended from. We are now looked upon as a country where money laundering risk is very high. The IMF and the World Bank now say that our management is opaque. We are suspended from EITI, risking suspension. You know, the next one, of course, is going to be the gold mining industry, which is now coming under the same scrutiny. So I'm just saying, accountability is important, but we need to know. That's why we can discuss this here, because of the information that Babissakana has put on the table. The information is that you can find anywhere. The court judgment you could see. If I didn't see the court judgments, if I didn't start following the case in 2018, I wouldn't have known how to ask for the questions I'm asking. So information is power.
Justement, il faudrait que l'expert Babi ne perde pas le fil de son idée parce qu'il était effectivement en train de démontrer ce que le bâtonnier révèle.
Ouais. Très bien. Et donc, à la suite de bâtonnier, vous voyez que ce qui se passe donc à la SNH et la présidence, c'est qu'il y a ce qu'on appelle des avances en espèces de la SNH à l'État. On appelle les dépenses directes de la présidence via la SNH. Et puisque la présidence dépense pour des choses qu'on ne maîtrise pas, qui n'ont pas été budgétisées préalablement, ça leur donne donc les latitudes de faire un exemple, comme vous voyez la dame offensive, pour aller vouloir lancer une autre raffinerie, créer ceci ou cela, c'est parce qu'ils ont la latitude de faire des dépenses directes qui ne sont ni budgétisées, ni supervisées au préalable. Et c'est donc un des éléments importants, vous voyez, qui concerne ce dérapage dans la gouvernance du pétrole. C'est que la présidence, en dehors du cadre budgétaire, fait des dépenses directes qu'ils appellent dépenses de souveraineté. C'est-à-dire, voilà, c'est un nom bateau comme ça qui cache donc une série de choses qu'il peut faire là-bas. Vous voyez, vous ne pouvez pas avoir un pays qui a sa raffinerie qui a brûlé, donc il faut reconstruire rapidement. Pendant que cette raffinerie n'est pas reconstruite, les mêmes gens te disent qu'ils lancent une autre raffinerie à Kribi. Pendant que la première qui est fermée n'a pas été reconstruite, qui a un site la SONARA, un site de 55 hectares, avec toutes les installations qui sont là-bas à Limbé. Comment vous pouvez imaginer, en 2019, la SONARA a fermé. Maintenant, pour vivre, elle achète le pétrole pour revendre localement. Donc, elle est devenue un négociant. Vous voyez, donc ces contradictions ne sont possibles que parce qu'il y a, voilà, ce que j'appelle, vous voyez, cette malédiction-là, voilà, au niveau de la présidence. Ils ne savent même plus comment faire. Le Fonds monétaire s'est battu, c'est-à-dire pour essayer de limiter les interventions directes là. Vous voyez, les chiffres que vous voyez maintenant sur l'écran, c'est le dernier programme avec le FMI qui est fini en 2025. Jusque-là, ils n'y arrivent pas. Ils disent à la présidence, écoutez, limitez, plafonnez quand même ces dépenses-là. Par exemple, que vous voyez les montants qui sont en haut, là, 120, 145, 110. Mais les gars, ils ne respectent même pas ça. Ça, la ligne ici, ce sont les dépenses directes que la présidente fait via la SNH. Vous voyez, en 2025, c'est 239 milliards non budgétisés. Et vous ne savez même pas ce pourquoi ils dépensent. Ce qui veut dire que, comme nous sommes en train de dire, ce système qui est en place est complètement pourri. Vous voyez, il est complètement pourri. Vous ne pouvez rien faire avec le système en place. Vous ne pouvez pas le mettre, disons, apporter la transparence avec lui. Il faut absolument
la réforme constitutionnelle.
Oui,
voilà.
Oui, ça dit que la réforme, pour faire la réforme, il faut d'abord auditer. Vous voyez, dans le programme voilà, de président, voilà, pendant ce qu'on appelle vraiment le programme de transition, l'audit du pétrole est très important.
Bien sûr, bien sûr.
Vous ne pouvez pas, on ne peut pas réformer l'État si on ne peut pas faire un audit complet du pétrole. Parce que ça va nous révéler des choses terribles. Et nous ne pourrons pas guérir l'État camerounais. Vous voyez, si on laisse tout ça dans le flou. Et c'est pour ça que ce qu'on recommande, c'est que avant même de faire l'audit, il y a des mesures préalables. Il faut, enlever la tutelle de la SNH, de la présidence. Ça, c'est un préalable. Il ne faut plus que la présidence de la République fasse la tutelle d'une entreprise, fût-elle une entreprise de pétrole. La première chose est que le secrétaire général ne soit plus la présidence du conseil. Vous voyez, ça, c'est les préalables. Et ensuite, qu'on interdise les interventions directes via la SNH, puisque c'est contraire même aux procédures budgétaires. Vous voyez, si on fait déjà ces premières mesures, ça va créer un environnement totalement différent. Et pour la réforme, comme nous disons, comme Léo venait de dire, vous savez que la constitution du Cameroun qui a subi donc le choc pétrolier, j'appelle ça le choc de la gouvernance. C'est-à-dire le changement de constitution qu'on a opéré, ça n'avait rien à voir avec le peuple camerounais. C'était juste pour le deal pétrolier que la France voulait. Ils ont donc violé la constitution de 61, en particulier l'article 47, pour instituer un État unitaire qui donne tous les pouvoirs à Idjo. Vous voyez, et normalement, le Cameroun, actuellement, si on doit remettre nos ressources, vous voyez, au service du peuple, ça doit commencer par une architecture de l'État qui est cohérente avec les besoins du peuple, à la base. Et comme on va faire pour les ressources pétrolières, pour les ressources forestières, si vous entrez dans la forêt, vous allez pleurer. Hein? Les UFA des forêts, mais ils sont donnés comme, c'est-à-dire dans des marchandages extraordinaires. Donc, on ne peut pas modifier, mettre au service des ressources, nous voyons, du pays, au peuple, si on ne reconfigure pas l'État. Vous voyez, c'est ça la principale recommandation qu'on peut donner, vous voyez, concernant cette affaire qui est sur la table. Notre groupe ici, le maître Akere, il connaît la constitution du Cameroun, vous voyez, avec la décentralisation, ça ne donne rien. Tout le monde sait que ça ne donne rien. Donc, il faut faire une réforme pour remettre l'État du Cameroun dans un contexte de fédération, vous voyez, moderne. Et ça, c'est quelque chose que c'est les Camerounais qui doivent faire, qu'on dit le peuple, vous voyez. Et là, si le peuple ne se saisit pas dans des dossiers, comme on parlait du pétrole, pour indiquer que non, vous autres, un groupe, vous ne pouvez pas vous mettre à gérer le pétrole comme vous voulez.
En fait, c'est ça le but, hein, Babi. Informer vraiment le peuple, leur donner la bonne information comme tu es en train de le faire, comme vous êtes en train de le faire, les experts.
Oui, et donc, vraiment, je voudrais terminer par là en disant que le débat, vous voyez, c'est d'abord mettre l'information à la portée des gens.
Exact, exact.
Que les gens sachent que voilà ce qui s'est passé.
Exact.
Moi, pour découvrir que Aïdjo était informé depuis 1964, mais j'ai fouillé, j'ai trouvé une note d'un historien camerounais. J'ai oublié de vous le mentionner. Il est ici, il s'appelle une fille de l'université de Boya. Son papier est en ligne là, vous pouvez la voir. Le gars a fait un papier pour retracer comment on a fait, vous voyez, pour démanteler la République fédérale. C'est-à-dire, et j'étais vraiment, ce papier-là m'a beaucoup aidé pour, vous voyez, coupler avec les informations sur la recherche pétrolière et caler maintenant les annonces de découverte. Vous voyez, et c'est les Camerounais, à Zefac, le papier dont on parle, c'est un Camerounais. Bon, Gauthier a apporté son concours, mais c'est parce que le Camerounais était motivé, vous voyez, pour porter l'information à la portée des Camerounais. Donc, il faut que ces documents, vous voyez, soient portés au plus grand nombre du public pour que les gens, au moins avec l'information, on ne va plus leur raconter des histoires. Voilà un peu.
Just a quick question, Mr. Babissakana, and the mention you did of the dismantling of the Federation, as well as Article 47. Are you here referring to the unitary state of 1972 and also the 1966 Ngomjua fight with Amadou Ahidjo, where they wanted to take the treasury of, they wanted oil to go directly to the treasury in Yaoundé? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, yes, because the discovery of oil,
okay,
it was normally the Cameroon, the northern Cameroon, the state of northern Cameroon, who should manage it, because the power was not at the level of the federation. The power of managing resources were belonging to, les États fédérés. Donc, l'État du Cameroun occidental, c'est lui qui devait gérer le pétrole. Et les Français étaient, non, ils étaient mal à l'aise, que non, c'est pas possible. Et vous savez, la culture là-bas, les gars ne vont pas accepter n'importe quoi. Vous voyez, par rapport à ceux qui sont dans le côté francophone. Donc, pour réussir, il faut donc démanteler la fédération pour ramener le pouvoir uniquement au niveau de Yaoundé, auprès du président lui-même. C'est-à-dire, ce n'est pas qu'il va donner à une autre personne, vous voyez. Et c'est pour ça que ça a affecté structurellement l'État du Cameroun jusqu'à aujourd'hui.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, just a more direct question that may reverberate in the hearts of a lot of people, Mr. Babissakana. Can you please cite specific projects, whether it's in the defense industry in Cameroon, in the aeronautical industry, or other places that this BIA administration has intervened directly, maybe even to destabilize the state of Cameroon and purposefully arrogate to himself various powers that they've intervened with money from the oil proceeds?
You know, there's no concrete investment, structural investment done with the oil resources. you can check, but Aijo started in his time, you know, in doing some investment and creating some companies. But after Aijo, there's nothing. There's nothing, even in terms of infrastructure. There's nothing you can, you know, point out and say, this is what the oil resources make the state of Cameroon, you know, to build for Cameroonians, so that, you know, it can be reference. Et puis, je peux vous dire que Aïdjo a signé avec la France, a commandé l'usine de la raffinerie en 72. Vous voyez, l'usine de la raffinerie à Victoria, naturellement, donc qui a été construite à Limbé, a été commandée en 72. C'est pour ça qu'on a créé la Sonara en 73. Si vous regardez le décret de création de la Sonara, vous allez voir que c'est 73. Mais la Sonara n'a ouvert les portes qu'en 81. C'est-à-dire quasiment 10 ans après. En fait, ça veut dire que, et même quand Aïdjo décide de créer le compte hors budget et de placer les fonds à l'étranger, mais vous voyez que dans les autres pays où il n'y a pas la malédiction du pétrole, vous voyez, où il n'y a pas le syndrome, mais on crée un fonds, on appelle 8 fonds, c'est-à-dire un fonds souverain, là où on met les ressources, c'est-à-dire de cette rente, et on investit dans des choses structurantes, c'est-à-dire pour modifier la structure de fonctionnement du pays. Et pourquoi j'appelle malédiction et syndrome, c'est qu'ils n'ont même pas réussi à faire, même ça, ni à Yaoundé, ni à Garoua, ni nulle part. Vous voyez, on aurait pu dire que bon, ils ont centré tous les trucs et bon, peut-être ils font pas ça là-bas au pays, la région qui est la région même source de revenus, et qui font ça ailleurs. Vous ne trouvez nulle part, ni à l'est, ni au sud, ni au nord. C'est ça qui est le drame. Vous voyez, un drame, ça veut dire que vous avez des dirigeants, ils sont comme s'ils sont devenus fous. C'est-à-dire, ils ont perdu la tête. De sorte que l'audit du pétrole, voilà, c'est un sujet vraiment que personne ne veut, voilà, voir ça sur la table, quoi.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Babissakana. In the interest of time, and I would have loved to bring Mr. Akere in to talk about this conflict of interest, because I don't understand how Natalie can be working for a company and I turn around and form the same company to compete with that, and she is a civil servant in Cameroon parlance. So, but maybe Akere speak to that very briefly, and then I'll hand back the microphone to Are to take it up from there. Leopold, unless you have something else to say after Akere, then.
No, it's okay.
I think that the point you raised about conflict of interest is really tied up with some kind of nepotism. And firstly, you can't be the spouse of the head of a company, okay, and be the legal advisor be the special advisor, and be the president of the board of a company which is more or less complete, as you say, and then bring in the president's stepson to be on the board. He goes down on the board to Equatorial Guinea, goes on the board to the DRC. When pictures are taken in Dubai where they meet, the president's son is present. I mean, you know, it is of such a nature that anybody who is a bit patriotic, I don't know. I will just end by, you know, following up on what Babi said. You know, one of the former heads of the African Development Bank told me that he told this government that the funds were ready to build the new railway road from Yaoundé to Kuseri with the new gauge. You know, we still have this old gauge and the train is derailing all the time, but with the new gauge. And he was pushing, so we have the financing available, which also could have been guaranteed by petroleum funds. But the guys refused. When they delayed, and afterwards, when he pushed, because his mandate was ending, they told him that, well, it's for political reasons, because if we make this railway from here to the extreme north, the people in the north are going to invade the south. Can you imagine? I mean, that's the kind of consideration. That's the kind of consideration we are dealing with, where people sacrifice the future of a whole part of the country because of stuff like this. And is this system? It cannot. I mean, it's already in the morgue. You cannot save it. It cannot come back to life. We need something else.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Ari?
Yes, I would just, Mr. Babissakana, if you can stop the slideshow.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. I want to have our two speakers. Please just do not go away, because Eric is going to come and have just a brief interview with both of you. But we'll just give you a few minutes to catch your breath, and then we'll come back. And in the meantime, I just want to introduce a subject that we have been working on, and I'll take 2 minutes to talk about it. And it's really what we're calling Not in My Name campaign. And it's, again, one of the challenges that we're facing with our country, Cameroon. In the next 3 weeks, the WTO is going to have its 14th ministerial conference in Cameroon. And you know, we are running an advocacy campaign now. We know it's practically impossible to stop this event from taking place in Cameroon, but we want to draw the attention of the WTO to what's happening in Cameroon. That this conversations that we're just having, you cannot, on the one hand, have an organization like the World Trade Organization that is founded on principles of transparency and democracy actually be having its conference in Cameroon, its ministerial conference, I think for the first time in Africa, having it in Cameroon under such circumstances in which we know that we have a government in Cameroon that is illegitimate, lost the elections, and it's hanging on to power by show of force. We understand that currently there's 3,000 political prisoners or more languishing in the jails in Cameroon. We have seen a political leader choked to death, essentially, in detention in Cameroon. And under such context, we see a country that is completely ungovernable, where almost a third of the country is not under the control of the government. Only when they have to steal elections that they take away the choice of the people in the Anglophone region, and yet the country's on that part of the country is ungovernable. Really, that part of the country has no representation in the government, and we've seen again why we have this secessionist tendencies because of some of these things that we have been talking about. So our goal here is really to put pressure on WTO. Well, if you're going to Cameroon, you should be asking these questions because everything else is contrary to the principles that you have. So we're running this campaign, and we're asking people to do a few things. Just sign a petition, which we're sharing every day. In the last week, we've been sharing. Our goal is to get as many Cameroonians to sign this petition as possible. We're also going to be putting out an open letter to the president of the WTO, the Director General, sorry. That letter is going to go out immediately after this. We're also leveraging social media, and we'll be asking people to write their own letters so that as the ministers from all the 180 countries or so that belong to WTO are going to Yaoundé, they should know we're also going to draw their attention to the state of Cameroon and how they're preparing for this conference, where essentially they're trying to make the path from the airport to the city of Yaoundé look beautiful, but behind all of that is people that are languishing and suffering. So we're going to be doing a campaign in the next 2 weeks that's going to cover all of these things. Just showcasing every challenge that is happening in Cameroon. This campaign, we will run it right up to the 26th because the conference itself is the 26th to the 29th. Again, we will not stop it, but we'll have to raise the voices of Cameroonians, draw the attention of the world to what's happening in Cameroon, and hope that the international community that is interacting with an illegitimate government does so, what they say in French, en toute connaissance de cause. And that's our goal. And we will also say the same and probably do the same for the visit of the Pope to Cameroon. So that's it's the Not in My Name campaign. And we're asking you to share the petition, to post online, and we'll have our collateral being shared. Write letters to the Director General of the WTO and the ambassadors of WTO in Cameroon. That's the Not in My Name campaign. And we have the hashtag No WTO in Cameroon. Legitimacy matters. And you can hashtag Project C as well. So please, we're going to be sharing this in our forums. We ask for you to take ownership of the process. Petition writing may not be something that we are used to in Cameroon because we assume that people do not read it, but the rest of the world pays attention to that. And if we want to bring pressure to bear on this illegitimate government and find some semblance of accountability and transparency, or both, we need to be taking action in many, many ways. The conversation that we're having today is even more revealing of why we must take action. I would use the words of Martin Luther King to talk about the fierce urgency of now, that there is no other moment for us to act than now. This is the time, and every little action, no matter what it leads to, it is a number of failed attempts that actually leads to success. And so if you worry that this will fail, then you will not take action because you never know when the final blow will come that will bring the much needed change that we need in Cameroon. So I encourage you to join us in this campaign. And I'll stop here and bring in Eric to come back to our subject of conversation today, which is really back to the conversation around oil It's accountability, and to say that this is the beginning of a series of conversations, because you cannot talk about this. I mean, today we've laid the foundation, right? And we're going to continue having this conversation as time goes on, and with a series of conversations right up to where we can take action and invite the people of Cameroon to take action. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Eric.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Ray. And we're going to be talking about not only oil, but other natural resources, wood, iron, gold, and so on. What I want to do now is to have our two speakers kind of summarize their thoughts, the key elements of what they've said, so that we can put it together neatly and share it on various platforms. Donc, je commence, cher Babi, j'aimerais, n'est-ce pas, vous inviter à résumer les points les plus forts de votre présentation. Mais la première question que je veux poser à vous deux, qui viennent d'un ami, d'un collègue, Alain Tita, le docteur Tita, qui aimerait savoir ce que le Cameroun aurait pu être si on avait bien utilisé les fonds pétroliers du pays. Donc, quelle image, qu'est-ce que le pays aurait pu être si on avait bien utilisé ces fonds-là? Donc, Babi, je commence avec vous et puis je pars à le bâtonnier Mouna.
Oui, en fait, si on utilisait, vous avez vu le chiffre, à peu près presque 30 milliards de dollars de revenus pétroliers, mais ça c'était sur la période 77-2006. Si on complète avec l'autre période, on doit être dans les 40 milliards de dollars. Si on avait utilisé, vous voyez, ces fonds-là pour investir, d'abord, en termes d'infrastructure, on aurait un réseau ferroviaire normalement couvrant tout le pays, et liant le Cameroun avec RCA et le Tchad, et ouvrant aussi le chemin avec le Nigeria. On aurait effectivement eu un réseau d'autoroutes, c'est-à-dire au moins la triangulaire, c'est-à-dire Cameroun, Bafoussam, Douala et Yaoundé, c'est-à-dire la triangulaire. On aurait pu avoir au niveau industriel, parce que vous savez, quand vous avez des revenus constants, on aurait investi dans des industries phares, dans l'agro-industrie, en partenariat avec le secteur privé. Vous savez, l'industrie camerounaise est restée stable à 13 à 14% du PIB depuis 30 ans. C'est-à-dire que, en fait, ce sont les services, voilà, et pas forcément les services de grande valeur qui ont dominé. Et on aurait une agriculture totalement transformée. C'est-à-dire que la physionomie du Cameroun, ça c'est du côté, vous voyez, de grands axes. Mais si on mettait, on aurait par exemple des universités dignes de ce nom. Parce que, si vous voulez, si vous avez de l'argent qui entre et que vous lancez les universités, grandes écoles, ça dit vraiment bien structuré, et le réseau d'écoles, ça dit public, on aurait une école totalement différente de ce qu'on a actuellement, complètement par terre. L'école camerounaise, il y a un décalage énorme entre les défis, si vous voulez, qu'on a actuellement et ce qu'on enseigne aux gens. Vous voyez, on aurait un Cameroun totalement, j'aurais dit, si on plaçait au niveau africain, on serait un peu comparable un peu au Maroc, c'est-à-dire, vous voyez, en termes de réseau, et de niveau de transformation des réseaux. Même les hôpitaux, même les hôpitaux, on ne serait pas en train d'envoyer toujours les gens aller se faire opérer au Maroc, en Tunisie.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Je vais aller maintenant poser la même question au bâtonnier Mouna. What would Cameroon look like? We're told that the UAE, Dubai, where everybody goes to, was kind of economically at the same level when we started off with petrol. That's what Dr. Alan Chita says, not from me. What Cameroon could we have had?
We would have had an amazing country. Would have had the ring road done, would have had a highway that goes from a motorway, as Babis just said. We would have had the railway done. Look at Ivory Coast and Senegal. This country didn't have oil before. They have a metro system today. They have trains. Look at Yaoundé. I mean, look at Yaoundé. Is it the capital? So I think that if we had, I'll just go back to Glencore. Today, if I'm empowered, I can get from Glencore a minimum of 400 to 500 billion CFA. Imagine if you gave to every division 1 billion CFA. They're what, 50 to 49, 58. So about 60 billion. Say, what is essential for you, the people you decide? Is it a hospital? Is it a school? I mean, the thing is, this country is loaded with resources, human resources. I mean, we are next to Nigeria. Benin and Togo live because of Nigeria. How come we don't have a free trade zone in Manfe, and a highway that goes from Manfe straight to the port? How come we don't have the deep sea port? We are still dredging in Douala. So I'm saying it's limitless. There was a time when Cameroon Airlines was top in Africa. Yeah, we were top in Africa. We had, I don't know how many planes. We're servicing our own planes here in Cameroon. But these people have just taken the country hostage, stolen everything, and everybody knows this.
Yes.
And what I'm afraid of, is the fact that you, myself, Babi's there, and we know what was before. But we have a generation. If you're 8 years old when Biya became president, today you have 50. So all you have known is this, and you think it's normal. How you can actually get change from that is what frightens me. But I mean, my brother and friend Babi, I told you, if we had the money, the $50 billion would have had in our coffers. We haven't spoken about the exploration period. When they explore before we start producing, what does the oil go to? Nobody has told you the 10 years they were just exploring. What did they get out? Where did it go to? Who took the money? Yeah. It is really amazing. Maybe in one program I'll talk to you about the postal stamps of the country, how we swindle only on the exchange rate. So I'm just saying, we are a country which is rich, the people are poor, and that's sad.
We will continue this discussion, of course, as Akere said, into the future. We've got at least 4 more discussions on oil. But my question to you now is, do we know who was bribed? I mean, I don't expect you to make that announcement here, but do we know who was bribed? And when there's a change in government, can we come back on that? Just talk to us a little bit about the Glencore situation.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think I can now, after 6 years, I can fairly say who was bribed and who was not. I can fairly say who did what and who didn't. But my word is not an authority. This case, which is in England now, which is coming up next year, should have come up 2 days ago. I think the government panicked and was able to cause the case to be put forth to 27. But the important thing about the case is a charge sheet that says you, Mr. So and so, that's the expatriates, on such and such a period, bribed officials from Sonara and SNH, high-ranking officials, to be able to do A, B, C, and D. What that means is that when that guy will go into the dock, they'll ask him, who did you bribe? And he'll be forced to say what happened. They said in their evidence that they hired an aircraft from Nigeria to Douala to bring in cash. I know that it was given to somebody from Sonara. They will be forced to say who they gave the money to. So I'm saying that it doesn't matter. It's like a pregnancy. It'll happen. They are running. They are scared. They are frightened. They are frightened. But I'm telling you, they will do what they want to do. I'm going to be starting in September. It is a pity because the American system now, the FCPA has been suspended. All those, even Glencore last year was the 3-year period was shortened, and they are no longer under surveillance and stuff like that because of the new politics to free the corporate world in America. But I'm going to lobby and make sure that the names Glencore knows. The government can get the names. They don't help us. The Swiss can give us the names. Because all those who are drawing money in Switzerland, they know. The British can give us the name, they know. The Americans know exactly who took the money. They don't help us.
Yes. Thank you very much, Matt. I'll come back to you with a different question to again summarize your thoughts. Let me go to Babissakana. Babi, vous avez jeté un certain nombre de dates. 64, 72, 78. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous raconter une histoire, enfin, à partir de ces dates-là, comment le pétrole, avec ces dates-là, ont changé le Cameroun?
Oui, en fait, avec les dates, comme je peux dire, 64, la date de 64 est une mauvaise date. C'est-à-dire que pendant qu'on découvre le pétrole, vous voyez un mauvais plan, un très mauvais plan doit être imaginé, doit être créé pour que le Cameroun soit différent de ce que le Cameroun devait être. Et donc, en 72, le coup est donné, vous voyez, au Cameroun. En 72, le coup est donné au Cameroun. La même année, on annonce qu'on a découvert le pétrole. L'année où on donne le coup à l'État camerounais, c'est la même année où on annonce qu'on a découvert le pétrole qui est commercialisable. Et donc, le Cameroun, le mauvais Cameroun qu'on voit aujourd'hui, il est né là. Voilà, et 77, l'argent commence à couler. Vous voyez, et s'opère quelque chose de terrible. L'ouverture des comptes hors budget, avec des fonds placés à l'étranger, en dehors du circuit budgétaire normal. Et vous voyez, quand les dirigeants font ça, il y a des réseaux, des tas de réseaux au noir, comme c'est l'eau noire. Vous voyez des tas de mauvais réseaux qui commencent à graviter autour de la présidence du Cameroun. Et je vous dis que je dis la malédiction est entrée. Vous voyez, l'argent qui sort du sous-sol camerounais, l'argent du peuple, est, on peut dire, capté par quelques personnes seulement qui commencent à faire ce qu'ils veulent, c'est-à-dire et à la défaveur du peuple. On peut dire que l'année 1977, quand on annonce que le Cameroun devient un pays pétrolier, on ne sait pas que derrière s'opèrent des choses terribles. Vous savez, ouvrir les comptes hors budget à l'étranger, auprès des banques étrangères, ce n'est pas votre banque centrale, ce n'est pas votre banque commerciale. Comment pouvez-vous faire confiance à des gens à l'étranger pour les ressources qui viennent du sous-sol de votre peuple? Vous voyez, la mauvaise histoire du Cameroun s'écrit sur les dates de la 64, 72, 77. Voilà. Après, on a voilà, la Sonara qui ouvre les portes en 81. En 80, on a la SNH qui voilà, termine un peu, vous voyez, le jeu macabre, quoi, la mise en place des institutions d'appauvrissement du Cameroun.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Babi. Quelles leçons, puisque le Cameroun est appelé aujourd'hui à aussi exploiter, n'est-ce pas, d'autres ressources naturelles, l'or, le fer, et ainsi de suite. Quelles leçons tirer de l'expérience du pétrole pour mieux gérer les autres richesses naturelles du pays?
La première grande leçon, c'est que chaque ressource naturelle doit être gérée, c'est-à-dire par une entité, hein, si on peut parler, par exemple, des ministères, que jamais les ressources ne soient liées à la présidence de la République. C'est-à-dire le président n'a rien à voir dans la gestion directe des ressources naturelles. Si on doit sécuriser la transparence, ça c'est le clou. C'est-à-dire il ne faut pas que celui qui dirige le pays et les structures qui dirigent le pays soient directement impliquées dans la gestion des ressources naturelles. Parce que vous connaissez le principe de celui qui ordonne, il ne peut pas lui-même gérer. Il faut que celui qui ordonne ait celui qui gère en face pour qu'il puisse l'évaluer. Et donc, toutes les ressources naturelles du Cameroun doivent partir sur le principe-là. Ensuite, pour chacune des ressources, adopter la transparence. Ne pas donner les accords dans le noir.
Absolument.
Vous voyez, les accords dans le noir doivent être strictement exclus. Le président n'a pas le pouvoir pour donner, voilà, il n'a pas le pouvoir pour donner les choses parce que c'est des amis.
Oui.
Voilà,
très bien dit. Babi, je vais poser la même question au bâtonnier Mouna comme dernière question. Et puis, so I'll come to you. Mouna, to tell us, what ideas, you have for changing or for determining how we manage our natural resources besides oil.
That has been done by this government in the interest of the people. Just one thing that is done in the interest of the people. I mean, when you had the COVID crisis in the United States, money was put up to help companies pay employees to maintain them. I say, in this country, can you just tell me one thing? I don't know, I'm still looking for, but I think the topic was accountability. Accountability, before it takes place, we need transparency. That's information. So it's transparency in licensing and in contracts, transparency in production and sales, transparency in budgeting and spending, which is what Babissakana has been talking about, independent audit, and with consequences, and then the community rights, because can you imagine that when Sonora was brought to Limbe, the schools where they stayed, all was looked at as a Francophone affair. As we speak, 60 years after independence, we have never had a general manager of SNH or Sonora or the deputy, whatever, or Tradex, who is from the area where the oil comes. So I'm saying that the guys in the East, they don't have roads, they don't even have schools, they don't have hospitals. The gold, the wood comes from there. If you go and do the inventory of the mining permit of gold that the first family has, from nephew, cousins to brothers, it is mind-boggling. So I think that, the key word which I bring to the table is transparency. Because if you don't have transparency, you cannot, it's difficult to enforce accountability. But again, as Babi said before, this train has left the station. The corpse is in the morgue now. We need a total systemic revolution to be able to see clear.
Thank you so much. I think there are lots of questions that are coming in, but we've run out of time, and all I'll have to do is ask you if you can come back questions and can come and answer some of them. Je pose la même question à Babi. Est-ce que nous pouvons nous retrouver pour répondre à quelques questions que les gens sont en train de poser? Il y a beaucoup de questions. Est-ce que je peux vous demander d'accepter d'être là? Enfin, peut-être pas la semaine prochaine, mais on va vous contacter pour cela. Est-ce que c'est...
Oui. Bien sûr.
Barrels, billions, and bribery. And it goes detailedly on the oil sector. It goes detailedly on Glencore. Court documents will be published. And I'll tell you how I started it and what I'm doing. And we'll look at the governance structure. So it's called barrels, billions, and bribery. The 3 Bs.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to that. And please, bring it here and let's talk about it.
Announcement. So I am happy to announce it reciprocally.
Oh, mais c'est extraordinaire. OK, ben, écoute, Akere, je vais vous laisser la parole pour clôturer cette séance, and we will come back later on, maybe next week, with more on the subject of oil. Donc, Akere,
well, let me thank Barrister Akere Muna. Let me thank Chairman Babissakana for being with us, for sharing with us this what was necessary, what I think should be a conversation that we have in this country going forward for the next few months, because we have to shine the light on this. If there is anything that we have lost, for the thousands of people who have lost their lives in this Anglophone struggle, for the many children who have not been able to have the quality of education that they should have, for people who have died trying to cross the desert to get to Europe because they couldn't find prosperity in Cameroon, for those people and for future generations that now have no hope about what their tomorrow will look like, we must shine the light on this. More than one election, more than politics, it's the welfare of every Cameroonian that is rooted in this conversation that we are having. So we must continue. So let me also thank Kenneth and Leopold for pouring your hearts and minds into this conversation, holding us to have this conversation, and we deeply appreciate you. If you have any closing words, Kenneth, Leopold, please can do that, and then we'll go on to the next segment.
Well, thank you, Akere. I think that as a community, as a people, as a country, and what have you, we need to really pay a lot of attention to this particular sector of our country. I think given the way this thing all started with Amadou Ahidjo, France, what have you, and then of course with this current administration who have made things a whole lot more worse on a totally different scale. We as a people, we basically completely ignore the oil sector and go as if it's, go about things as if it's business as usual. When you look at the Middle East and what the Arabians have done over there, I mean, it's like night and day. We leave Cameroon and go and visit Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and it's beautiful over there, whereas these are countries that we were even ahead of them in the 70s. So I think we'll take a deeper dive within the next few weeks, and I look forward to more participation. Thank you.
Kenneth, there's a question that I would like for us to consider. And, because we're all sitting here talking about accountability and the likes, but it's easy to point fingers in talking about accountability. The question that you guys might want to shine light on for myself is, what is accountability of the Cameroonian people? We have to ask ourselves, what is our own responsibility? Because you can only do what you can do. So what is our own accountability as a people? I need for somebody to, just tell me, what do you think? As we leave here, we want to ask ourselves the right questions. What is now that you know? They say, when you know, you're never the same. And should we want to know more? And not just wait for this on Saturday because of videos to watch, but when we do know, what do we do? We're helpless? It's a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's food for thought, because I mean, if we go as far back as, I think even the 70s, the MP Nwali Pinja from Jan Division asked in Amadou Ahidjo about the oil proceeds. And it is rumored Amadou Ahidjo turned around and asked him that, "Na you papa oya." So,
there's a famous quote from that. He used to call him Nwali Pepe. So he said, Nwali Pepe, onya, naya, onya.
There you go. So I think a lot of people at so many different levels, even people who have worked at SNI, such as Mr. Ebongalame before he died, people have made very genuine efforts, but it looks like an area that it's like some sort of a no-go area in Cameroon or something. Once you start questioning it, I mean, even I think Pongo of Douala in the 70s was killed by Amadou Ahidjo. So it looks like a no-go area. And I think as the years have gone by, many Cameroonians at different levels we've been making a genuine effort to try to look into that sector. But I think we now need a mass movement.
And exactly, Kenneth, maybe what I'm heading towards is saying, maybe we are not going to be the intellectuals who will come and give the information as we've heard today. But when you get the information, what do you do with it? Are you with me? Because your average person in Burkina Faso, and I keep going back to the 93-year-old woman who had the son bring her, the people are building the country. And she would not sit. Now, I bet if she didn't bring her 2 bags of cement, the country would have been built. But her moving and driving there and going there to give that bag of cement was significant. So I'm asking the Cameroonian people, do we sit in our bars and have a conversation and do this cliche and laugh over it? What can we do? It's my challenge to ourselves. I dare everybody listening to this. I dare you. That is the challenge. What can we do? We should have, that's why we need a movement. That's why we need to get back to Cameroon. That's why if we have 1 million people marching down to Yaoundé, it's not going to hold. Because if Yaoundé is breathing, then it doesn't matter. But it will suffocate. That's the point. I'm speaking to the activists. I am speaking to the people who believe. You just don't get information and sit on it. Now that we know, how does this thing rage us? What do we do? Do we just sit and we're helpless until it's for them, we're still helpless, we've been taken a note? Now you know. So it boils down to, how do we bring our president? We have a legal president and we have an illegal president, okay? And then we have the bandits who have taken over the government. If we don't call a thing, then we don't see it for what it is. So we have the bandits who are taking over the government. These people are illegitimate. We just have to, as disgusting and uncomfortable as it is, we need to start from there. So I'm not speaking the old language. I'm talking to my average Cameroonian, my brother them, okay? My sister them. The woman in Mokolo Markets, okay? That's who I'm talking to. The woman in Marché New Bell, that's who I'm talking to. How do we empower them? They may not be able to understand it, they don't need to, but they understand that their very property has been stolen. And when your property is stolen, nobody sits down. So the lack of us understanding the gap between the property being stolen and what we need to do is lack of understanding, and that's why we're being educated today. And so I just want to appeal to Cameroonians as we continue to be engaged with Project C. Akere just talked about the campaign we're doing. That is one way that we're taking back. The moment contributing today, how many, I want to just ask, how many of us has contributed today? How many of us has contributed right now to, have we given money as we're listening to it? Are you with me? Because that's what matters right now. That's what matters. How many of us has given money? And that's where it's at. So every inch, a cinch is going to get us there. And if we do it in great numbers, then it really makes a difference. And that's really the awareness that I want. I don't want us to leave here feeling like this is a matter for other people, because it's not. It is ours. It is in our house. It is in our home. And every Cameroonian, from zilch in education to the most highly education, can act. And one of the first things we can do is our understanding of what patriotism means, the ownership of one's country, knowing that you are a part of it. That was that woman in Burkina who the son drove, so she sits in that car. I think she could barely walk. So in her time before she goes, she could see that bag of cement too that we're going to contribute to a building. Where's our bag of cement? That's my reflection.
Let me just jump in real quick, and I'll speak to Leopold if you can answer what I'm about to just touch on a little bit, because there's a political undertone to a lot of what our guest speakers were talking about. The heritage that it can be seen from a Southern Cameroonian perspective, right? This oil, which, as we see and understand now, the backbone of what ran the Cameroonian government. And so from a Francophone perspective, if you can just speak to that, we've talked about the deep sea port and all these other things, but because it's lots of angst when it comes to the French English stuff, and I think it's important to understand from a French perspective your views on this.
Leopold.
Well, not that easy, but you say le pétrole sera toujours considéré comme une malédiction aussi longtemps que la gouvernance restera opaque, centralisée, alors qu'il faut justement délocaliser, décentraliser. Mais ce pétrole deviendra une bénédiction le jour où nous allons fonctionner dans la transparence, la justice et la responsabilité, comme cela a été rappelé tout à l'heure par le bâtonnier. Parce qu'en fait, l'avenir appartient à ceux qui osent exiger des comptes et construire un pays si chaque citoyen peut enfin profiter de sa ressource de la terre. Donc, cela ramène à la responsabilité dont Elisabeth parlait tout à l'heure. Donc, de ce point de vue, moi, je crois qu'il faudrait considérer le pétrole et les ressources naturelles comme une graine. Cette graine-là ne peut pas continuer à nourrir la corruption, mais elle doit plutôt faire fleurir le Cameroun comme on le voit dans les pays du Golfe et autres. Donc, c'est une responsabilité de chacun d'entre nous. Mais une fois de plus, la forme même de l'État, et l'expert Babissakana l'a rappelé tout à l'heure, Babi, tu étais totalement en droit de ligne, cela ne date pas d'aujourd'hui. Mais il était important que le public soit informé de cela et qu'on se rende compte que même un certain nombre de conflits que l'opacité entretient, crise anglophone et patati, ça relève la forme de l'État. Et le sacrilège part de 1972, comme l'a rappelé Babi. Ce fameux référendum qui n'adressait la parole qu'à une seule partie des Camerounais et pas ceux qui étaient directement concernés. Nous le voyons, mais ce que Project C fait aujourd'hui, c'est vraiment pour les générations futures et vraiment nos panélistes nous ont édifiés aujourd'hui parce que vraiment les questions, je crois qu'il serait vraiment judicieux que ces experts nous répondent à ces questions-là et nous avons besoin d'autres sessions.
Oui, on aura une autre session avec toutes ces questions. Il y a beaucoup de questions. Il y a deux personnes avec nous. Il y a Marilyn et le père Janvier qui ont les mains levées.
Okay.
Est-ce qu'on peut faire entrer le père Janvier qui est en Mexique? Est-ce qu'il a une question à poser ou une intervention?
We per Janvier, I will take Marilyn.
Okay.
But just before that, we have an ordinary citizen in Cameroon. We've been trying to do this every week to get, we talk about this. Maybe and I'm trying to make sure that Wilson is available to make sure that this person, this woman, can bring in her thoughts with reference to a question that she has around this conversation about oil. And then we'll go to Père Janvier and we'll go to Marilyn Bekima.
Okay, so we have Pierre Janvier on.
Okay.
So we'll come to you, Pierre Janvier.
Okay.
Good to see you. Thank you so much. And I would like to know from Wilson, who's the name of this person in Cameroon so we can pull them up.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you. If you can get on camera, is it possible to get on camera?
Yes, I want to do it on camera. Just 1 second. Let me turn it on video. Just bear with me. See this? See you guys, I want to be able to turn it to video, but for some reason I'm not here. Just bear with me. Let me mess with it. Some other person can take it while I mess with it.
Okay.
I'm using something else.
Okay.
There is a Mildred. This is Mildred Bekima. Okay. And
Mildred,
no.
on video. I was struggling to turn it to video.
Okay, great. I'm just going to put Mildred on, so she's going to come after Père Janvier. The question.
Si, Elie, mon anglais est vraiment très rudimentaire.
No, allons-y en français.
We love your français, s'il vous plaît.
I worked to the United States 4 years, but I cannot speak in English because I'm living here in Mexico more than 35 years ago. Donc, ceci dit, je voulais d'abord remercier le projet CI pour cette information qu'ils nous ont donnée. Je ne veux pas répéter ce qui a déjà dit, mais je voudrais nous inviter ensemble que nous puissions continuer, voir dans quelle mesure toutes ces informations peuvent être diffusées le maximum possible, que les Camerounais sachent qu'ils sont les maîtres de leur destin. Ce n'est pas quelqu'un qui viendra libérer le Cameroun. C'est le Cameroun et les Camerounais, nous sommes les maîtres de notre destin. Nous sommes notre destin, nous l'avons entre nos mains. Et c'est aujourd'hui plus que jamais que nous avons le devoir d'essayer de participer. Je voulais remercier l'autre jour national, Anissé et Kane. Et je pense qu'aujourd'hui, plus que jamais, il est l'heure pour nous de resserrer les liens et voir dans quelle mesure ces obsèques, quelqu'un l'a dit, je pense que c'est Richingé, dans une conversation privée ou publique, que ça doit être le détonateur de la libération du Cameroun. Donc, je voulais juste féliciter vraiment le projet XI pour tout le travail qui est d'information, qui est fait. Et c'est comme ça que nous devons continuer à travailler. Merci, Elie Mouna, de me donner la parole.
Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, Père Janvier.
You are welcome.
Grateful to have you always.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you get on camera?
Yes, I'm trying to, but I'm having difficulties on this side.
Okay, maybe she could go ahead and just speak.
It's not one person. There are a lot of young women behind me.
Okay, while you're doing that, I will go ahead and bring Marilyn. Here we go.
Yes,
Thank you, Marilyn.
thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak. Just very briefly, again, I just want to appreciate, what you guys are doing. I definitely encourage the idea of doing at least a monthly series so we can have these conversations. I talked earlier about a vacuum, and I truly believe that people always take advantage when there is a vacuum. And by a vacuum, I talk about that there's a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things. So people take advantage when you go about it the wrong way, and then they get you out of the scene. But once you come at the right way, and I think that what you guys are doing is the right way. As Anglophones or as Cameroonians, we need to come together. Even if we don't agree on everything, but on the little things that we agree on, people have had in-depth conversations with, like Eric, for example, and my big brother Kenneth did that I don't always agree with. But on the little things that the things that we agree on, we need to come together and work towards that. You do know that we need to look at the short-term picture and the long-term picture. There are a lot of deliverables that we can get. Eli talked about the old woman. I always say that my constituency is Mami Besem, who sells puff-puff on the road. How can we make life better for her in the short term? So we have long-term deliverables and short-term deliverables. Let's always keep that in perspective, because we know that ultimately we want to see a change in government, or at least even for the CPDM people that are unhappy with their government, they want to see reform within the CPDM party. So we have short-term deliverables and long-term deliverables. So I want to announce that these conversations are so important. It's a step in the right direction. I want to talk about, I believe in going about working within the legal framework. That's why a lot of people don't want to hear me talk about it, but I'm going to talk about the special status regions, because that is what the CPDM government has approved for now. So a lot of people say it's an empty basket, it's whatever, but I talk about pilot project. We want to have federation. We can have a pilot project. You can use what you have. And I don't think that by them trying to transfer Sonara from Limbe to Kribi, I think that it's because they realize that when a right person is going to come in that special status region and run the way it's supposed to be run, they're not going to be able to do a lot of stuff. So that's why they're thinking, and then they're moving stuff. So let's use the special status region. And it's because of that I'm going to announce here. For those who know me, I do a lot of stuff. I'm involved in a lot of community work. I work a lot with Eric. And the first time we called on the special status, actually, we did a lot of work. We put together a document and we submitted to the government requesting a lot of stuff, the House of Chiefs, and requesting the special status, whatever. We're having a round 2, which I'm going to invite a lot of people in the Project C to be part of that. We are calling on a round 2 group of intellectuals, Anglophone intellectuals, to come together and refocus. We're not going to wait for the next election like we have now. How can we deliver for Mami Besem, who is selling puff-puff on the road? How can we make her life better while waiting for that next presidential election? While waiting, how can we, so Project C members, wait for me. I'll be reaching out to you guys through Eric, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. I love what you said. It is the short term. How do we deliver to Mami Besem selling puff-puff? That is the fight. And that fight is what is going to liberate us. So we're so grateful. Thank you so much. All right. So we have, are you ready? We just want to make sure here to see if Wilson, maybe they had to come back in. I don't see that they're here. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, we lost them, but I'm sure they're going to be coming back in. So in the interim, yeah, we may have to. I'm not pushing things forward, but I'm sure gonna, okay, here we are. So I see them. Okay.
I don't, well, hopefully the car were here. I think 2 weeks ago, we had a young man from Limbe, who's just another person talking about the impact of the economy on ordinary Cameroonians. And as we talk about oil and how, you know, we may look at this from a really informed and educated perspective, but it's also to bring the voices of the ordinary Cameroonians in this conversation. And we, even if we do not have that today, we will continue this conversation, because we're going to have a series of conversations around this question of oil. Today we laid the foundation. Next week we're going to talk about all these various sectors that come together to the entire network that's behind the management of oil and its finances, and the expenditure, how that is related to the people, what it means, what a barrel of oil means for a classroom that's not built, what a barrel of oil means, you know, for water that's not delivered to communities around the country, and just how it can practically make a difference if we get involved. But also, who is responsible? Who are the people? Who are the corporates? Who are the people who have mismanaged the resources of the country? Who should be held accountable? And I know we as Cameroonians must bear our part of the responsibility. We may not be all responsible for the challenges that we have faced as a country, but somehow we all have been complacent, and we can be responsible for the solutions looking forward. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. We know that in the month of April, we're going to have the Pope visit our country, Cameroon. And 3 months ago, Project C piloted the conversation around one letter to the Pope, drawing the Pope's attention to the current state of Cameroon at the time. Pope's visit to Cameroon, Père Ludovic also did write a letter to the Pope, drawing the Pope's attention to why he shouldn't visit Cameroon. The background as well is that this will not be the first Pope to visit Cameroon. So for those who say the Pope's visit may bring peace in Cameroon, historically that has not been the case. The first visit of the Pope in Cameroon was 1985. There was so much corruption around the Pope's visit that it also did contribute to the economic crisis that was declared by the president in 1986, because corruption was also at the root of this. And I'm not saying that that's because of the Pope. I'm just saying that circumstances of the visit of the Pope diverts so much resources from the people that really need it. And we ask ourselves, do we really need the visit of the Pope into an airport in Bafoot, Bamenda, that has been abandoned, that people, ordinary people, have to come out to sweep the airport for the Pope to land in Bamenda? Ridiculous. Think about it. And then we've had 2 subsequent visits of the Popes to Cameroon. And each time those visits have happened, for anyone who looks historically, you see a lot of corruption takes place during these visits, and we're gearing up for the same. And the Pope is coming in the context of 7,000 people who have lost their lives in the Northwest and the Southwest as a result of the conflict that has been going on in that part. 2,000 of these people are people of the national forces. We train the military to defend our country against foreign enemies, and yet we lose 2,000 of them fighting against their own people. It's lamentable. Pope is coming in the context of thousands of people arrested and languishing in our jail. Many people know about the recent arrests, but as far back as 2016, and I can go as far back as 2008, people have been arrested for expressing their political opinion and have no pathway to justice. Civilians tried before a military tribunal. No reason for any civilian to be tried before a military tribunal, which has no jurisdiction over political or civil matters. And yet that has been the case with Cameroon. We have people who were jailed in Arab 10, arrested and are sitting condemned to death, condemned to life imprisonment, in one case 150 years in jail. And life goes on in Cameroon. Presidential election that just took place, that everyone knows the truth, including the Catholic Church, that Paul Biya lost the elections. And how can we move on in such circumstances? A political prisoner dies in jail, 2,500 people arrested in jail, many of them children and women. No pathway to justice. The core of the mission of the church, justice. Justice for those who do not have authority. And here we are welcoming the Pope to Cameroon, not even thinking about what this will cost for our country. We have members of parliament that are not being paid. And if members of parliament are not being paid, I can tell you that there's not money going into education. I can tell you that there's not money going into healthcare of the ordinary people, that the essential drug program that is supposed to fight against malaria, which is the largest cause of death in Cameroon, that surpasses accidents, HIV, cancer combined. Malaria continues to be the #1 cause of death in Cameroon. 80% of outpatient consultations in Cameroon is as a result of malaria. I can bet you that is not being funded. So you can think about all of these things and say, do we as a country need to invest these resources in bringing the Pope? It's not as if the Catholic Church lacks money. If the Catholic Church was organizing their visit to Cameroon, I would understand. But that's not the case, because the burden, the cost of this visit largely depends on the Cameroonian people. Do we need the visit of a Pope in Cameroon? And I say this as a Catholic, one that has not been to church for many years, as a result of some of these questions that we always ask. But here we are, a country faced with so many challenges. And so, Eli, I'll turn it over to you to sum it up from somebody who has been sitting in prison for many years, that writes to the Pope and really does say it all.
Well, there's no better way to do it. I think the letter speaks for itself, and we all need to hear this letter. I'm going to read it to you. And then we have Pierre Janvier, who is going to talk about this visit. And I noticed that he said, so we're going to have him talk about a visit. So I'll go ahead and just read the letter. It says, my name is C. Conrad, and I am writing to you from a cramped cell in Kondingi Central Prison of Yaoundé, Cameroon. This has been my home for over 9 years. I am a journalist, a filmmaker, a husband, a father to 4 beautiful children, and according to the government of Cameroon, I am a terrorist. But my only crime was pointing, this is a letter he wrote to the Pope, by the way, but my only crime was pointing my camera at the truth. In 2016, when lawyers and teachers in my home, the English-speaking region of Cameroon, marched peacefully to knows how to attack, provoke, imprison, and inflame. Last October, he secured an 8th term in office through a flawed election, leaving little hope for a free and democratic Cameroon. I was very excited to hear that you were considering a visit to Cameroon. As you know, we are a deeply religious country, and millions here look to you for guidance and inspiration. My faith in God is the one thing that eases the pain of being away from my wife and my children for so long. As you discuss the potential to visit the government of Cameroon, I beg you to use your unique, powerful voice to stand up for me and the other political prisoners in Cameroon. In particular, I ask you to demand the government to release me and other detained journalists. Amadou Vamoke, Mancho Bibixi, and Thomas Awa Jr. The Bible says, quote, "The truth shall set you free." But when I and my fellow journalists spoke and documented the truth, we received a lengthy imprisonment sentence instead. Please do not let our crisis fade into silence. Please help me go home. Thank you. Sincerely, Nsi Conrad. This is really, one of the things that, we can hear the letter and all kinds of emotions that run through. But my deal is always, how do we direct this energy? How do we use it to serve us? What I want to encourage us to do is, we didn't want him to come. He's coming. I think this letter should be the demand of every one of us. We now can direct the conversation. We now can decide what this visit would replicate. And this letter is already doing the work for us. I am going to hear what Pierre Janvier has to say. But before I do, I just want us to really consider, what are some of the ways that we can do this? What are some of the things that we can put on social media? What is it that we can write in the papers? Because we as Cameroonian people will direct the energy, we will direct this conversation. And so when the Pope leaves, because all this hype will go down, when he leaves, what will be the conversation? And I want you to know that the listening Cameroonian people of Catholic origins and so on, they are listening. So we have our voices now is going to make a difference. And I'm going to let Pierre Janvier, address that. Thank you.
Elie, vraiment, quand on parle de cette situation, on a envie de pleurer. Donc, dans une situation comme celle-là, où nos enfants, nos petits frères, nos grands frères sont en prison, sans raison d'être, on ne sait pas quoi faire. Mais je voudrais ici vous dire ce que nous on est en train de faire jusqu'à ce moment.
Okay.
Donc, on avait décidé, il y a plus de 3 mois, d'inonder toutes les nonciatures en dénonçant cette visite. La semaine passée, on a envoyé une délégation à Rome au Vatican, où on lui a présenté la situation telle qu'elle est. J'ai comme impression que on a la vision que le Vatican a n'est pas la même. Pour plusieurs raisons. Certains évêques ont changé leur version des faits. L'archevêque de Bamenda, qui était pour nous comme une fer de lance pour cette lutte, a changé on s'est dans une réunion de la synergie, le grand frère Illicit était là, je ne sais pas qui du projet ici, qu'on va diviser les tâches afin que nous puissions continuer, une dans la protestation, une dans l'information. Et hier, on a même décidé qu'il fallait qu'on mette des tracts dans les églises au Cameroun, et même aller dans nos nonciatures là où nous sommes, pour dire que voilà, nous ne sommes pas d'accord pour cette situation. Jusqu'aujourd'hui, je pense que moins de 100 Camerounais l'ont fait. Mais s'il y avait 1000 courriers, 500 courriers qu'on envoie dans les nonciatures pour dénoncer cela, je pense que, Georges et Kani, on dit que quand 500 personnes se retrouvent, la réponse est policière. Mais sont 2000, 3000, 4000, 5000, ils vont négocier avec nous. Donc, moi, je voudrais ici inviter nous tous qui sommes ici présents, si nous pouvons vraiment envoyer des courriers dans les nonciatures qui nous correspondent ou demander une audience. Ce n'est pas si difficile. Hein? Il faut juste écrire que je veux voir le nonce. Ils vont te recevoir sur leur travail et dénoncer cette situation qui est en train d'être faite. Dans le contraire, on bénéficié cette visite. Une des choses qui a été prise lors de la réunion de la synergie, c'est que le pape puisse recevoir le collectif des victimes. Ceci, nous ne pouvons que nous baser sur Monseigneur Cléda, qui est l'organisateur de la dernière journée de la visite du pape. Donc, on essaie dans ce sens-là, mais je suis conscient, je suis convaincu. Bon, je vais me présenter. Moi, je suis prêtre catholique. Hein? Je suis prêtre catholique, je suis missionnaire au Mexique depuis plus de 30 ans. Je suis le directeur de ce que vous appelez chez les anglophones la Catholic Charity. Donc, il y a beaucoup de Camerounais. Si vous dites qui est le Père Janvier, on le connaît, il nous a reçus au Mexique, il nous a donné une tasse de café, il nous a donné du pain. Si vous demandez à certains, ils vont vous le dire. Donc, rien, tu as travaillé fort. On a encore un mois. Oui. Et on a un mois, c'est le 14, je ne sais pas. Le 18 avril, voilà. Donc, on a encore un mois. Merci, Projexi. Donc, c'est le 18 avril. Si nous pouvons vraiment accélérer, continuer à faire la pression, et ceux qui veulent faire les manifestations, par exemple, le 20 mars, il y a une manifestation devant l'annonciature à Bruxelles. N'hésitons pas vraiment de manifester notre mécontentement. Et il est inconcevable que nos enfants, nos petits frères, nos grands frères, nos parents soient en prison sans jugement pour avoir dit ce que je pense. Je ne pense pas. Et sur ce aussi, je voudrais faire sur notre point, notre grand frère il a dit qu'on l'informe. Nous voulons qu'au niveau de la diaspora, nous créons une commission sociale afin que le travail soit fait de manière coordonnée et que quand nos prisonniers sont dans cette situation-là, on voit comment on peut nous concerter pour les venir en aide. Si aujourd'hui, on veut chasser M. Biya du Cameroun, on a besoin d'eux. Donc, c'est notre base future si nous voulons vraiment que M. Biya parte sans prendre son sac. Et une chose que je voudrais ici dire, ça va surprendre d'autres gens. Il n'y a aucune négociation que on va faire une nouvelle transition. Non, on négocie le départ de Paul Biya. Il n'y a pas de transition. Il doit partir. Quelqu'un l'a dit ici, là, mon frère, je ne sais pas qui a parlé avant Eli. Il a bien dit que tout le monde connaît le résultat sorti des urnes. Et j'invite le projet-ci. C'est ça notre combat, que Biya s'en aille d'abord. Même c'est le diable qui arrive. Vraiment, excusez-moi d'être long. Vraiment, excusez-moi. Ou de parler avec beaucoup de passion. Oui. Je suis écœuré.
Très nécessaire.
Merci.
Yes. Oh my goodness. We're so grateful for today. And I just want to say, Père Janvier, it does matter that you know, as a Father, you can speak in your capacity in what you have done. I just say it's a privilege to sit here on the same platform with you and listen to you, honestly. And I think, you've really given us a direction, right, Project C? He's given us a direction of what to do, because I know that some of us were just crying, our hearts are hurting, that the church that we believe in, it didn't even matter what religious, you are, if, what form of Christianity you have, and if you're not Catholic, we are all wondering, it's almost painful that this is happening. So I think, Pierre Janvier has given us a task to do. And I'm going to bring Akere on, because Akere, I know that there's work to do. Like he rightfully said, we have a full month. There's a lot we can accomplish. And here at Project C, we know what to do. We know how to write letters. We know how to rally people. We know how to make radio announcements. We know how to send information on the papers. So I know that there's a lot we can do, Akere. So I'm just going to pass it on to you. If you can comment on what Pierre Janvier said, and then how we can proceed.
Well, thank you, Pierre Janvier, for that contribution, and Elie for giving me the floor here. The ball is in our court. Every one of us has a voice. We have a pen, and that's it. We can lend our voice and lend our thoughts and our words to this campaign. We can also invest our time and our money to make this campaign successful. We'll leverage communications, the newspapers, the bloggers in Cameroon. We should engage everyone in this process, but even also the people, the women in Yaoundé, in Bamenda, in Douala, the Catholic Women's Association, the Catholic Men's Association. If you're one of them, you can play a part in this conversation. The Cameroonian civil society, NGOs, you represent, more importantly than even political parties, the voices of the people of Cameroon. Play your part. Tell the truth. All we are asking is that you state the facts and tell the truth. Shine the light on the truth, because the truth is what will set us free, as quoted in the letter from the journalist C. Conrad, who's been languishing in jail, forgotten, abandoned by his own country. And that's the story of our country, Cameroon. The sacrifices that we make every Saturday is not because any one of us is more Cameroonian than the other. It is because we have just taken up consciousness of the role that we have to play. And for anyone that listens to this, that's currently watching or that will watch this, what role are you going to play? And we have one moment, the moment when the Pope comes to Cameroon. That's the first head of state that will be coming to Cameroon post the election. And his visit from a government, from the BIA team standpoint, is really to legitimize the regime. But why does this head of state, that is also head religious figure of the world, choose to come to Cameroon? And how can we make this moment one that is in the interest of the Cameroonian people and not just of the government? It's up to us, each one of us. So bring your time, bring your dime, bring your words, bring your voices, bring your pen to the table, and let's make this a moment where we can really shine the light on Cameroon and hopefully use this moment to change the trajectory of the pain and suffering of the Cameroonian people. We count on you to join us in this fight.
And Akere, I just wanted to add on to what you've just said, why this is the right time. We really need to understand the circumstances of, when we're ignorant or we are maybe not mature. The visit of the Pope used to be a huge pride and an excitement, where we were even prouder that he was coming to Cameroon in compared to all the surrounding regions. It was a big deal. But now we know better. And we can make this a mark, because This is the first time he's come that we can rise as a people and kick against that. So we really want to be aware to Cameroonians listening everywhere that with what we now know and everything is out in the open, that our actions, what Ari just talked about, what we do, what Pierre Janvier talked about, what we do is going to be extremely significant. So my hope is that we don't miss this moment and this time to impact history. And it's all collective with what we talked about earlier today and getting the right person that has to be our president for the future to ensure and start the work of building for the future of our country.
Great. Well, thank you very much. It has been a long, fruitful 3 hours. We always try to keep this down to 2 hours, but the conversation
never works,
about
Ari.
Cameroon it's not one that we can have in 2 hours. So we want to thank everyone for being part of the conversation today. Please continue to share this with your networks. The links are on YouTube and several other platforms. We will be back next week. We'll be back with further conversations around oil transparency and its accountability. We would frame that conversation, all with a goal to empower, inspire, and engage Cameroonians to take action. That if we know how much we are losing, maybe we will know how much we should invest to recover what we're losing. Thank you very much. We would have to call it a day at this point. That's, we can keep going, but I think we'll be running for quite a while now. So thanks to our guests for joining us today, Barrister Akere Muna and Babissakana for joining us, to our moderators Kenneth and Leopold, to Eric.
Fantastic job.
Yeah.
Thank you so
to Eric,
yeah.
To you, Ellie. Thank you very much. We'll be back.
And Francois, we have to say Francois.
And Francois for the
guys, we
production.
have a renowned film producer who is working for free for Project C. You guys, it's a new day. And I'm very grateful for this production. It just says that it's a whole new other channel that has opened for us. And I hope that we're very mindful aware of the impact of Francois being here with us. We're very grateful. Thank you so much. Eric, did you want to just put some gold dust?
Just to thank Francois also, because I think he did a fantastic job. And we'll continue to do that. And to thank everybody else. And hopefully, we'll get back to this subject next week with all the questions. And I hope maybe Babissakana and maybe we will keep going. There's a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.